interested parties to the July 25th, 2024 meeting of the Cohasset Conservation Commission. Commission is now in session on a Zoom platform. I'm Tom Bell, Chair of the Cohasset Conservation Commission, and I'll be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts and Cohasset's Wetlands Protection Acts and the Cohasset Stormwater Management Regulations. If anyone in the audience has questions for the Commission, put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of the page, and when called, please limit your discussion to 3 minutes. You must include your name and address to be recognized. Present this evening on behalf of the Conservation Commission are our Conservation Administrator, Angela Giso, and Town Conservation Agent, Charlotte Pechtel. I'll take a roll call vote of Conservation Commissioners. Please respond by repeating your name and saying present. Chris McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre, present.
Sanji Fernando.
Sanji Fernando, present.
Valerio Romano.
Valerio Romano, present.
Tom Bell, present. Tonight we have a quorum of 4 commissioners. We'll be taking all votes via roll call with each commissioner answering yay, nay, or abstain. Before we get started, I want to tell the participants and applicants that we are going to complete the meeting at 9:30 no matter what, because we're going to lose a quorum. So we're going to give you a very short time to make your presentations, and we're going to cut our discussion as best we can. So please help us along with this. So before proceeding to the public hearings, the following public hearings are continued. NOI 2332, Stormwater Permit 2325, 175 Lamberts, ANRAD 2422, 96 Pond Street. It's out to 8824. Stormwater Permit 2421, 32 Orchard, continued to 8824. Enforcement Order 34 Flintlock Ridge Road, continued to 82224. Show cause hearing for 630, 640 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. A later date, we haven't determined that yet. Show cause for 44 Atlantic Avenue, same thing. We don't have a date yet for that, but it is postponed or continued. Certificate of completion, NOI 2110, 183 Atlantic, continued to 8824. Certificate of completion, NOI 16861 Nichols Road, also continued to 9524. Our first hearing this evening is for RDA 2412, 732, 723 Jerusalem Road, second story addition, convert lawn into deck. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, July 25th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for RDA 2412. Charlotte, will you introduce the applicant?
Yep. So they're rejoining us right now. We have Patrick and Jessica Hansen, the owners and applicants of 723 Jerusalem. Hi, guys.
Hello.
So I can pull up your site plan. Did you guys want to go over it with us?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Sir.
1 second. There we go. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Charlotte. So, our project is pretty straightforward, I believe. So we can see on the site plan to the northwest, we have Straits Pond. And then in the yellow, the orange line is the floodplain delineation. The first green line is the 50-foot buffer setback from the coastal embankment. And then the other green line is the 100-foot buffer zone from the coastal embankment. Our project is to, I'm sorry, Charlotte, can I share my screen? Because some of the markings are not showing up in that version for some reason.
Sure.
So let me share here. Screen number 3 and share. Okay. So our project consists of 3 elements. The main part of the project, let me zoom in here. Oh, this is okay. The main part of the project is adding a second story addition. I'll just give a quick architectural just for context. So get a sense of it. So this gray portion is the is in addition to the second story that we're doing. The white portion of the house is existing. So we're just adding a second story over the existing kitchen and garage. From the top view, you can see the area dashed in red is that second story addition. There's no change into the existing building footprint. And so that is the main element of the project. We have two other. Here we go.
Patrick, please zoom in. Thank you.
Yep, there we go. The two other elements of the project is we would like to do a conversion of the lawn adjacent to the structure, about 445 square feet, to do a new deck. And that would be, there's a very gentle slope off of this portion of the house, and we want to continue that as a level deck. But we wouldn't be disturbing any, we wouldn't have to do any regrading or anything. We would maintain that existing slope. And then, of course, the deck would allow for water to flow through it and still enter the groundwater. So, the only change in the impervious surface would be, the footings, which would be maybe, 3 or 4 square feet total. The other, and that is, there is most of that is inside the 50-foot setback or 50-foot buffer zone. The other element of the project is a hardscape patio that is about 420 square feet that we're proposing here. And we're designing this to be outside of the 50-foot setback. This is an existing lawn that we want to convert into a hardscape patio. And that's really, it's my first conservation committee meeting. That's the summary of the project. Are there any questions or anything else that we need to address? Let me know.
Commissioners. Charlotte, do you have any comments about this?
No, just that they submitted a variance request for the work in the 50-foot buffer. So they do have that submitted to you guys.
No comments here.
I don't know that we vote for an RDA. I don't know that we've ever, in my time, granted a negative determination for work in the 50 or something like this.
We have for like very specific small things, like I think going back a couple years, like small sheds, really tiny additions. Like there was a little addition on Little Harbor, I think that was like 40 square feet. I think we have approved pervious decks in the 50 through an RDA, but whenever it comes to like impervious stuff, usually in our experience, we tend to go towards an NOI and a positive determination.
The addition itself has no bearing on this, right? I mean, it's within the footprint. It is within the 50, but it's also within the footprint of the building. So I don't see that as an issue at all.
Oh, sorry, Chair.
No, go ahead, Valerio.
So I guess the only way the addition would make a difference to me is sort of where the staging area is, where the refuse is going to go. It's within the 50 and within the 100, so it's certainly within our jurisdiction. So I guess just sort of, and maintaining any other vegetation, keeping it, in good shape while the construction is going on. So the basic stuff, I don't think it triggers any stormwater issues because we're not increasing that. But those would be my concerns and questions if we were to have any. I would think that this would need a NOI, but I certainly would defer to the rest of the members.
Sorry, what was that? What was the last one?
Well, I don't see how we would give a negative determination to the RDA for this, but I defer. It is a relatively small project. Maybe there's some confusion. The deck would remain impervious, just like the deck would remain pervious, just like the lawn is, right? So it would not increase any amount of water collection because water would run through the slats and then down the hill. But below the deck, would you be putting in gravel? Would you just leave the lawn as it is and just let it die out? Like how? And then And then also, yeah, staging and the other things that I brought up would be my only questions.
Yeah, for underneath the deck, I mean, we don't have, we'll do whatever is necessary to, to have the most, the reduced impact to the, within the 50, if leaving the lawn is more beneficial, then we'll do that. If it's more beneficial to have a gravel, that's fine, but we definitely would not want to increase any impervious surface. In terms of the staging area, the topography, there's a lot of ledge on in the property. There's really very limited access to the pond side of the property. And we have an easement for the neighbors to access this common driveway on the east side of the property. So really, that leaves the only real staging area is out here outside the 100-foot buffer zone, which is what we're anticipating the builder will be doing, staging in the 100, outside the 100.
And that's where you would store any refuse or anything while it's going on as well.
Yep, exactly.
And are there any, important vegetation or trees that you'd be coming close to, or, potentially disrupting or hurting during the construction process?
That's a good question. There's one pretty large, a nice old tree right here but that's outside of our property. It's on the neighbor's property, but that's really the closest significant tree to the construction zone.
And then for the deck, you'd be in the 50, you'd be driving some pilings or something down into the mud there, and pouring concrete in the corners of the deck.
Exactly. Yeah. It would just be, the cylindrical footings, or not pilings. The ledge is pretty
Pilings
shallow.
is the wrong word. Sorry.
It's very shallow. I mean, I think the soil is only a couple inches deep in this area. There's many spots where the ledge is even exposed.
And so it would just sit on the ledge.
Yeah, essentially.
You wouldn't try to, okay. That's all I have through the chair, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Sure. Any other commissioners have some comments here? Clock is ticking. Chris,
If we were to issue a negative, Charlotte, how would we vote on that?
Negative, sorry? Was it a negative?
If we were to issue a negative, I'm sorry if I'm overstepping,
it
Chair.
would be,
I just keep it along for time's sake. Yep.
Yes, it would be, I know this might be a site plan thing, but there's like a microscopic corner that's just crossing the floodplain. I don't know if that footing would go in the floodplain. It looks like it may potentially be just on the line or outside. So if you guys want to say it's only work in the buffer, it would be a -3 and a -6. And then a -3 would be with or without conditions.
Chris or Sanjay, do you have comments?
Yeah, same comment. I don't see this as a negative. We're working, it's a significant kind of, work in the 50 is, forgive me, what's the phrase? It's, unusual circumstances.
Rare and unusual circumstances to get a variance, right?
Right. So that's for that's for a variance. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't feel right, voting this negative.
And so if we don't do negative, what would be the next option?
And then why?
They'd come back with an NOI.
Oh,
Can I ask if we removed the deck in the 50 and just had the patio and the addition, would that change? Because that's really, to be honest, that's the addition is what's important to us. The deck is really a convenience to come here once instead of doing this project and coming back a second time. So if the deck is
Yeah, Yeah.
Is
I
the
would have-
cosmetic area,
that's-
we'd be
that's
happy to move
existing,
that.
Footprint, so really, it's not, in my opinion, it's not making any change to the 50, it's not changing the stormwater, so
Right,
I would vote negative for just the addition. And
okay,
potentially, I mean, we could discuss the patio, which isn't 100, so. That's,
I think that would probably expedite the whole thing if you were willing to at least postpone the deck and come back with it as a separate application. We're really reluctant to let anybody do anything in the 50-foot buffer, even if there's lawn. So it would probably be a more complex arrangement where there would have to be mitigation, and we'd have to think through all of that. And so if the deck is taken off the table here, I think that just looking at, could you scoot up so I want to see what the square footage of the patio is.
Mr. Chair, we're coming close to, we're at 11 out of 15 minutes, so.
Okay, so I personally would be fine if that deck was removed and move the project forward.
yeah, we can confirm that we can remove the deck.
I'm just one vote, so. Sanji, do you have anything to say here? Or Chris, do you have anything further to say about this?
I would concur, like, if with that line of thinking.
Sanji, I think if you wanted to propose, or if anybody wanted to propose a motion, you could issue a -3 and -6 with the condition that the proposed deck requires an NOI. So like you can kind of split, the project and, look at the work just in the 100 and the addition partially in the 50, and then with a condition that the deck requires an NOI or something.
That sounds like a good
You
suggestion.
can also do positive and negative determination. It just gets kind of, yeah.
Yeah. If there's no further discussion, somebody
just
like.
one question about the patio, is that, it says hardscape, but there's no detail, would that be a pervious?
It's no, we were planning to do impervious, but if it's more, if that's not allowable, I mean, the way that we had read the state statute, we didn't think that it mattered if it was pervious or impervious outside the 50, but that's why we want to come here to ask for your determination. So it is proposed as an impervious surface.
Yeah. Yeah, it is outside the 50 and it is relatively small, so yeah. Fine.
And it's less than 500 square feet. So,
Yeah.
So I could make a motion that we issue a -3 and a -6 determination with the condition that should the applicant wish to pursue the deck, they would have to come back for a notice of intent.
I second that.
And, okay, perfect.
We're ready to vote. Sanji Fernando,
Sanji Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Ms. McIntyre, aye.
Valeria Romano,
Larry Romano, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That vote passes 4-0-0. It does not, just in case you do need to work in the 50 here, you can actually probably have to at least put ladders and stuff up against the house when you're in the 50. We probably should add some conditions about the extent of your work in the 50 and confine it to no mechanized equipment at the very least. Right, so maybe
There's
we
no
can
room to get it back there anyway, so that's fine.
yeah, okay. All right, so maybe we don't need to do that then. But we should issue a variance, I think, so that you can work there in the 50, at least walk around, that workman can walk around in there. So I'll move that we issue a variance for work within the 50-foot buffer. I have a second.
With the condition that if should the variance be approved, that there's no mechanized equipment. And we don't be driving backhoes and, bobcats and spilling oil down in the 50 essentially. So,
Right. Right. Thanks, Valerio.
yeah,
But that
second.
Okay, Sanji Fernando? Sanji, you're muted.
Sorry, Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
John Bell, aye. That vote passes 4-0. The public hearing for RDA 2412, 723 Jerusalem Road is now closed.
Good luck, guys. Have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Okay, moving right along here. Next public hearing for NOI 2423, 45 Pleasant Street, addition and porch. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw, and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, July 25th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for NOI 2423. Charlotte, will you introduce the applicants?
Oh, did we lose someone? Oh, there he is. All right, we have 4. Yeah, we have 4. Okay. Hey, Jeff. I'm looking for the applicant. I don't know if he's on, but if he is, if he wants to raise his hand, I can promote him. Don't see him unless he wants to raise his hand, but probably go ahead.
On or not, he might not be.
Yeah, I don't see any hands raised.
Can you continue, Jeff, without him?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's get underway.
So Jeff Hassett here with Morse Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the owner, John Mullally. And this is an NOI filing for an addition at their home at 45 Pleasant Street. The property is about 13,000 square feet. It's developed with a single family home. They have a gravel driveway in the back and the front. And the property slopes gently from front to back to a BBW at the back that was flagged by John Zimmer in June of this year. The 50-foot buffer is in red. The 100-foot buffer is in green. And what we're here for is they currently have a porch that extends to right here. We're proposing an addition that will extend 5 feet off the front of the foundation. So that's entirely within the footprint of the existing porch. And then from there, a 6-foot porch. So it ends up extending about 5 feet beyond the existing porch. All of the work is, right there adjacent to the house. It's on the opposite side of the house from the wetlands, and it's a relatively flat area. So I don't believe it will have any negative impact on the wetlands. Thank you.
Charlotte, do you have any comments on this? Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments here? Okay. Without objection, I'll move that we approve the conditions for NOI 2423 at 45 Pleasant Street with our standard conditions. I don't see any need for any special ones. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Sanji Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Valeria Romano,
Valeria Romano, aye.
John Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0.
Thank you, everyone.
That the public hearing for NOI 2423 45 Pleasant Street is now closed.
Jeff, I think you hold the record for fastest hearing.
Yeah, I was about to say that's the fastest since I've been on the commission.
First one went pretty fast.
Jeff's a professional.
Next is a public hearing for
Thank you.
NRAD 2425 165 Chief Justice Cushing Highway Wetland Resource Area Delineation. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw, the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission held a public hearing on Thursday, July 25th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for NRAD 2425 for a wetlands delineation. Charlotte, please introduce the applicants.
Yes, sorry, 1 sec. I'm trying to find the person. There we go. There he is. Erica, sorry. And then we have Brad Holmes from ECR representing the applicant. And then Brad, are you expecting anybody else?
Yes, Attorney Jeff DeLisi should be in the audience.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, Jeff. There's Tom. Okay, I think I have everyone. But super quickly for the record, can you please all list your names and affiliations if you haven't already?
For sure. Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR. On behalf of the applicant, Hingham Lumber Company, and Attorney Jeff DeLisi and Tom McNulty are here as well. I'll let Jeff kick this off.
Sure. I recognize that this is a quick meeting. We're here on an ANRAD tonight application. This property is located adjacent to and kind of behind the current Hingham Lumber property. And I don't want to belabor. I know that, you guys will have some questions of Brad, so I'll just let Brad say his thing.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. Do you want me to share my screen and pull up the plan, or great? So I'll just go quickly to the aerial image. It helps to kind of tune in. So we've delineated wetland resource areas on portions of the properties to the west of the Hingham Lumber Company. They're undeveloped properties. They're large forested parcels of land containing wetland resource areas. You can almost see it in the imagery here. This is the wetland line kind of continues it's a large swamp system. You kind of see the wetland piece here and a wetland piece here. What we've done is we've delineated the limit of the bordering vegetative wetland here. Comes along the toe of slope. It's a nice, it's a more easy wetland system to delineate because you can see the topography kind of blends down to the north, and the red maple swamp system is located near the toe of slope. There, we've delineated the limit of a wetland that's close to the lot that we're looking to focus on. And then there's also another portion of the bordering vegetative wetland here that we've delineated. These wetlands all connect further off site, but we've just located the portions of the edge of the bordering vegetative wetlands closest to the area that we're focusing on. There are no flood zones or rare species habitat or certified vernal pools within this area. I know they're looking at designing and planning for some future activities here. So the first step is to locate the limit of the wetlands and confirm with the commission so that they can move forward and at a later date come back to the commission, hopefully with a proposed project. So all the NRAD is to confirm the location of bordering vegetative wetlands. With that comes the 50 and the 100-foot buffer zone. There are no other wetland resource areas associated with this NRAD application. So with that, I'll bring it back to the commission.
Charlotte, do you have any comments?
Yeah, real quickly, just that, so 165 CGC and the 3 other parcels you see here, those are, I believe, and Jeff or somebody correct me if I'm wrong, eventually those will be combined, but all property owners for all parcels have signed the ANRAD. So just noting that. And then I had some comments for, even though I wasn't able to walk and see it, I think Brad, you and I had discussed that at some point, either further down lot 4 or offsite, those wetland systems look like they may or may not be connected. So that's just something to acknowledge. And then a little bit more off the site, we did mark it on the plans, but it's not within the parcel boundaries. There is a PVP that's more off-site, and the 100-foot buffer from using the coordinates, PVP as potential vernal pool. And so using the coordinates from Mass Mapper with the 100-foot buffer, it doesn't cross into the property parcel boundaries, but we did just note it on the plans. And then some of the wetland flags are just a little bit flagged on, it looks like a parcel owned by DCR. So I have a recommendation, just to not approve those flags since they're not on a parcel owned by the applicants. But I have notes for that later. Just wanted to note that now.
Commissioners, any questions or comments here? So I would just note that I agree with Brad that this is a piece of cake to delineate the wetlands here. I've been back in this area, and Toa Slope is a pretty good marker. So I don't see what could go wrong.
I agree. It's actually a nice, it's a nice wooded area, and it's not, extremely thick, and you can walk through there and hang flags, and it's easy to see. So
Yeah.
I agree.
So one more call here for comments or questions from the commissioners. Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion here?
I have suggested modification. So for an ORAD, you can approve, modify, or deny a delineation. You guys want me to share those?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Brad, I'm going to take over.
Sure, I'll stop sharing.
Sorry, this looks a little tedious, but really just going through the flags for wetland flags A1 through 16 and A21 through 36. Those, are all on the parcels, and those looked great. And then, it's up to you guys if you want to acknowledge it but not approve it. But wetlands flags 17 through 21 and 37 through 39 are on that parcel owned by DCR. So they didn't sign the ANRAD. And then the wetland B and C flags look good, C1 through 16 and B1 through B5. And then it's up to you guys, this in blue, if you want to include it or not include it. Just acknowledge that the wetlands, further north on CJC, they do go further up, but the applicants have just requested to flag the back half of the parcel, not the area that goes closer to CJC. And then acknowledge that wetlands A, B, and C could likely be connected further west or off site. And they're not separate. So that's up to you guys if you want to say that or not say that. And then acknowledge the vernal pool and buffer zones on the abutting property below the future property line, which will be decided later.
So they're already being treated as BVWs, is that right?
Yeah, so they're all flagged as BVW.
Yeah. So, okay. So
It's up to you guys if you want those or not, but I definitely would do the first 5 conditions, and then next 3 up to you guys. I don't know if I'm being overly tedious.
No, you're being thorough.
Can I ask a brief question through the chair? Would 6, 7, and 8, would finalizing those affect the setbacks that may affect some future construction or project, or it would not, because they're all BBWs anyway, and the setbacks aren't going to be affected no matter what we do with 6, 7, and 8?
Well, what I think we're acknowledging is that at least with 6 is that it's connected, and indeed it's a BVW. Is that right? Oh no, that's 7. I don't see that same language there.
Closer to
Charlotte, or
CJC.
6.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
Extends northeast is. So it's being treated as a BVW or not?
Yes, all wetlands were flagged as BVW, right, Brad?
Correct.
Okay, so I would say, Charlotte, that should be, if we're going to acknowledge 6, 7, and 8, 7 already sort of addresses that, and 6 and 8 don't. So if we're going to acknowledge it, let's make sure that we have the language that clears that. With the vernal pool, yeah, let's leave that off.
Okay.
It's a potential one, but it's, at some point that may get certified, and it's not, and since it's outside of the property that's being referenced or being in question here, I don't see any reason to acknowledge that.
Yeah, The future lot line pretty much cuts the PVP and the buffer zones out of the parcels, so
Yeah.
it's not on the.
Yeah, so that leaves 6, further extends northeast. It's not requested.
Yeah, it's just I think, they didn't really want to do the wetland areas further up closer to CJC. It's really just the back half that they really wanted to delineate, so. We
Okay,
kind
so-
of like, you can see it on the plans that the wetlands do kind of continue further northeast. We just, the wetland flags only start like, a certain portion down on the parcels. So it's just acknowledged, but they've only requested a delineation of the back half of the properties.
Yeah, I guess that one's all right then.
Okay.
So with that, does anyone wish to make a motion to approve or reject this ANRAD?
It's approve, modify, or deny.
I move that we approve the ANRAD 2425 and acknowledge the items 6 and 7 here, which is acknowledge wetlands A further extends northeast on 165 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, and acknowledge wetlands A, B, and C are likely connected further west on or offsite and are not separate BVW systems. Do I have a second?
So sorry, I
Second.
think, Tom, sorry to interrupt. I think it would be a modification.
Oh.
So it'd be an order of resource area delineation for
Okay.
modifying the BVW delineation, and then it would just be with conditions 1 through 7. Sorry.
So let me modify that. Let me change my motion to, I move that we approve the NRED 24-25 conditionally. And the conditions are delineation, modified delineation to only approve the following 1 through 7 as shown on the screen and entered into the meeting notes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Valeria Romano,
Valerio Romano, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. Motion passes 400. Public hearing for
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Public hearing for NRAD 2425, 165 Chief Justice Highway is now closed. Next, public hearing for NOI 2424, Stormwater Permit 2423, 31 Dolan Lane. This is a new single-family dwelling, construct a driveway within an IVW buffer zone. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, July 25th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for NOI 2424, Stormwater Permit 2423. Charlotte, will you introduce the applicant?
Yes, and I'll be really quick. As of today, the applicant has requested a continuance to August 8th.
Okay,
So no
Sounds-
need to do this one tonight.
that sounds good to me. So the public hearing for NOI 2423, Stormwater Permit 2423, 31 Dolan Lane is now continued until,
August 8th.
pardon,
Oh, 8/8, August 8th.
August 8th, 2024. Did I get those numbers right? 24, they're all 2423, right? Yes, no, that's for NOI 2424 and Stormwater Permit 2423. 31 Dolan Lane is now continued to August 8th. Next is resumption of the public hearing for NOI 2420. Route 3A had been continued from 6/25/24. Let's hear
Tom,
from the applicant.
I think we have to read the notice for this one because this one was continued. They wanted more time to work on comments, so I think we have to read the notice.
So this is continued?
This is technically a new hearing. They were originally scheduled for June 25th, but they continued to work on the comments a little bit
Oh,
more.
okay. Oh, okay. So I need to read it in.
Yeah.
Okay. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, July 25th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for NOI 2420 at Route 3A. Let's hear from the applicants.
Oh my gosh.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
David Nader with TEC. I think there should be a couple of Mass
Yes,
DOT.
I'm sorry. I think I promoted Erica to the wrong hearing.
Oh, that
Sorry
was
about that,
entirely
Eric.
me. I got excited when I heard Chief Justice Cushing Highway, so.
No
sorry.
worries. Sorry. I realized afterwards I promoted you to the wrong hearing. Could you guys please quickly, and thank you for attending. Can you please introduce yourselves for the record?
Of course, David Nader with TEC. I'm here representing Mass DOT. And
good evening. My name's Steven Simoglu. I'm a project manager with Mass DOT.
And my name is Erica Larner. I'm a Wetlands and Water Resources Coordinator with Mass DOT.
Thank you, guys. And you guys you're also welcome to share your screen too, if that's easier.
works for me. I'll probably just give a general overview. It's a kind of a long project. So I don't know how much sharing my screen will be until we get into the nitty gritty. So once again, thank you guys for having us. This is a sidewalk, project on Route 3A. It's from approximately Sawyer Street to Pond Street. It's about 3,300 linear feet of sidewalk on the northern portion of the roadway. So general overview, the resource areas adjacent to the site consist of multiple delineated wetlands as well as 2 intermittent streams. And there is a bordering land subject to flooding that ranges anywhere from 61.8 feet through 55.6 feet, depending on what part of the site you're on. Really, high level, the project will be in the buffer zone only. There'll be no direct impacts to any of these resource areas. The existing site is a raised shoulder. There are catch basins along this roadway. So really what we're doing with this project is we're installing sidewalks, but mimicking existing flow patterns, just kind of formalizing the drainage with curbing and additional catch basins along this, 3,300 linear feet of sidewalk. Overall, it's a limited project, but the project does improve impervious. Obviously, we're adding sidewalk, but it only increases the peak flows by less than 1 cubic foot per second in the 100-year storm. So not a huge increase in peak flows. We've received comments from both Charlotte as well as DEP. We've addressed those pretty significant, significantly comments. I think some of the largest things that came out of that was we updated our erosion control. Originally, we had compost filter tubes throughout the entire site. At your request, we added silt fence in addition to the compost filter tubes. So that gives an additional layer of protection between the project limits and the resource areas. We also specified seed mix that has both wet tolerant species, sun and shade tolerant plants, and wildflowers for pollinators for any disturbed areas in the that are outside of the sidewalk. Like I said, it's kind of a straightforward, high level, and we really want to just open it up to any questions you have. And I don't know if Erica or Stephen, you have anything to add to what I said.
No, I don't have anything to add. Happy to hear from the commission if there are any questions or comments.
Charlotte, just to, I apologize if I don't know this context, but is this related to the bike lane that we looked at Beechwood, or these are 2 separate things, right?
Yes, the same applicant. It's Mass DOT, but different projects. So this one is I think it's about 70 feet from Sawyer Street down to the intersection on Pond Street, and then the other project was a little bit before that, further down into Situate. So different areas of 3A. And then David, I think you already mentioned this, but this project is just buffer zone, so there's no permanent alterations to BVW well, actually, with the exception of, I think it's bordering land subject to flooding, correct? That is the resource area that I think is affected, but not bordering vegetated wetland.
Yeah, there are no, I mean, there are permanent impacts within the bordering land subject to flooding. However, this raised shoulders out there, so there's no significant change, I should say. We're changing from impervious or from pervious to impervious, but it's a 5-foot sidewalk and it'll raise shoulders and catch basins out there currently. So we're really not changing any flow patterns.
And we're additionally not adding any fill. We are changing cover type, but the performance standards for BLSF are talking more about storage, and we are not taking up any additional flood storage capacity.
Are they gonna, I know there was rain gardens in that stretch of 3A. Are any of those gonna be taken away? Just like, or otherwise, I'm just pulling up the map where the rain gardens had been.
Where along the strip are there rain gardens? Because they should have been delineated by our wetland scientists if there were any in the project area.
It may not be in great shape, but trying to figure out how I can share this. Can I share this? Or
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
See it? Yeah, so this is the rain garden project back in 20, this is the water quality report from 2009. So this is 3A, this is Sawyer Street, and this is Pond Street. So there's 1, 2, 3 on that stretch, and then there was a cluster of them in and around that intersection, 3A and Pond Street.
So it looks like this from this map, those are on the southern side, if I'm looking at this correctly, on the southern side of, is north up on this map? I don't know where the north arrow is.
Yeah, and sorry.
Yeah, I'll read it right south.
It looks
North is
like the leftmost one from our is on the same side as your proposed sidewalk. That one right there, the top
Yeah.
one.
this
Yeah,
one,
because we're on the northern side.
And then
Is-
those ones, yeah.
at least this one. I would have to. I don't know exactly the condition of them, but
Is the can I ask David or Stephen, is this work extending beyond the state highway layout at all?
It's not. We're maintaining within everything is within the state highway layout.
My first impression is that those are likely, Stephen can clarify, because to the best of my knowledge, MassDOT doesn't use rain gardens on routes like this. But Stephen, please correct me if I'm wrong. So my thought would be that these are likely having to do with municipal roads or private properties. And therefore, if they're not within the state highway layout, we wouldn't impact them.
Yeah, Eric, I can't speak, for any certainty in this situation in particular. Other than to say if, yes, the work is all of this proposed work is within state highway layout, and we're not proposing anything on municipal or private right of way.
And generally, we will see out west of Worcester or other rural areas, you'll see some country drainage that we will do, the ditches on the side. But generally, when we have more developed areas like this, we are looking at structure solutions as opposed to rain gardens. MassDOT doesn't have the capacity at the district level to maintain them appropriately, so we generally don't install them. So that is, to the best of my knowledge, not something we would generally do.
And I'm looking a little bit closer at these plans. So on the eastern portion of the site, right, adjacent to Pond Street, the one that was that the purple marker that you had up, we do have a wetland that is delineated, but it's outside of our, outside the right of way. So we're not touching that. We're not impacting it. So that might be the rain garden that's showing that.
Or David or Stephen or Erica, would one of you want to pull up the plans just so we can quickly look at those?
Yes, let me share my screen. Bear with me. So let me go to the end. All right, well, first of which, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So that western, the eastern side, I should say, adjacent to Pond Street, we have this WGAR 3 delineated, and it's fully outside of our, not just limit of work, but, well, outside our limit of work, but outside the right of way. So that might have been that purple dot on the eastern side. And then on the western side, you go all the way back. So where do we know where that that other one that was on the northern side was? What road that was adjacent to, Chris?
On the other side of 3A. Sorry, or 8.
Yep, on the western side of like where our project is coming through.
Yeah, no, I'm not. It's not 100% clear. It's just that's the limit of the map. That's as far as you can zoom in. So I have to talk to the department for more specifics on the location.
Okay. I mean, so our wetland wetland scientist picked up the one on the eastern side. If there was anything on the western side of the site, they would have picked it up. I think the closest one would have been WGAR 2, which is on both sides of Red Fox Lane, which I believe is a few hundred feet in from the beginning of our site. So I believe whatever rain garden there was on that map that you'd pulled up is either off-site or it was outside of the limit of work and the right of way far enough that it didn't get picked up from our wetland delineation.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it makes sense that they wouldn't have put it on DOT right away.
So,
May I share something just in the interest of efficiency and honesty? So we are offering some variety of seed mixes with some grasses that have a variety of different species, including wildflowers. MassDOT will need to continue to maintain that with intermittent mowing in order to reduce the potential for woody vegetation and clear sight lines for safety. It's part of the federal highway administration requirements that we do need to be able to maintain that ability. But knowing that the intent is that we are still producing native species that can handle that mowing, that they are herbaceous and will continue to stay established. But I just wanted to make sure, because sometimes that is a condition that we see, and I wouldn't want to come back after this meeting and let you know that that really is functionally difficult for us.
We do have a list of approved plants here in town. Have you looked at it?
We have looked at it, but those plants are typically, I don't believe they're part of a seed mix. Most of them are more shrubs and trees. If I'm incorrect, then correct me.
What we call conservation seed mix, which I believe is grasses and wildflowers. Is that right, Charlotte? Is that what's in the? Yeah.
We technically have 2 lists, and then one of the more one of the heftier lists we reference New England wetland plants. They have a variety of seed mixes. Some of them can be used for roadside erosion control, etc. I don't know. Does MassDOT have their own I don't know if you guys use specific vendors or if you have your own seed mixes. It sounds like you have your own.
Well, we generally, actually, we can't dictate needs and methods to the contractors. So when we put this out to bid, we can describe that this,
Mhm.
the wet and dry tolerant native species seed mixes. It is something that we've seen frequently where the commissions will say, you know, before you start work, you need to submit the actual seed mix to the office for approval prior to beginning work. And that's how we frequently handle it, so that you do have some ability to review that we're not trying to put, you know, knotweed seeds out there, because that would be terrible.
Nobody wants that. Okay.
Question on the curb design or the curb detail, does DOT have a required curb size and detail, or is it, the reason I ask, we had reports after a sidewalk was installed that, it was impeding the passage of, wetland species. They couldn't get over the curb, granite curb. So question, is there options for that?
It is a standard to try and achieve a 6-inch granite curb, mostly for ongoing maintenance and safety concerns, and that when we go to mill and overlay or patch, that we still have space in order to do that and still contain the stormwater and treat it. I'm not sure, I don't believe this has any mapped rare species habitats, but we do when we have rare species, we will work with natural heritage to provide crossings and things like that. But in general, we prefer the curbs to be that 6-inch height for the best stormwater management and the control, and so that we continue to maintain with less, fewer, larger, full depth redevelopment projects. We can just continue to add layers and mill and overlay. Excuse me, I have a real frog in my throat tonight.
Mr. Chair, it's been about 15 minutes. I don't know if we still have questions or comments or anything we'd like to see, or if we have our questions have been answered.
Sure. Sounds like this is the last call for questions. Or comments. Okay, so we don't have any. So I move that we issue an order of conditions for NOI 2420.
I had conditions for this one, and in the interest of time, do you want me to just share my screen, Tom? Okay. For reference, you know, similar to the other MassDOT project, I did use a lot of them, but they are severely cut down since there's no wetlands replication. So I'll just be very quick that the order is contingent upon all other permits. Any changes from the permit review have to come back to us. Prior to any site work, we just have to stake out limit of work, trees proposed to remain or be removed, put in tree protection barriers. A lot of that's already specified in the plan. I recommended distance markers, any road markers. We did that for the other MassDOT project. And then I added this from our discussions that the proposed native seed mix selected by the contractor has to be submitted to the agent for approval. David and I had talked about this, that just any existing catch basin covers within limit of work shall be replaced if they're, you know, found to be damaged. Dewatering is not anticipated, but if it is, they just have to, you know, get approval. The construction O&M plan shall be followed as part of the order. Long-term maintenance plan shall be included as an ongoing condition for upon the issuance of a COC. Conservation markers along bordering vegetative wetlands and intermittent streams shall be installed after construction. That's up to you guys. And then we did discuss the use of herbicides solely to treat Japanese knotweed, and that will be determined on a site visit walk with the agent prior to construction, and shall only be installed within the state highway layout. So nothing obviously in the BVWs. And construction equipment just has to be regularly inspected, make sure no fluid leaks. Non-structural practices for temporary erosion control, all of that, you know, is specified and allowed as needed. No equipment or materials stored in the wetland. Any trees larger than 4-inch caliper to be removed within wetlands or buffer zones shall be replaced with native species to the maximum extent practicable within any wetland buffer zone areas. We understand the limit of work is a little tight, so that's why I just wrote to the maximum extent practicable. No open trenches allowed at the end of the workday. Contractors shall closely monitor rainfall to work in low flow conditions. Contractor shall follow all applicable state laws for excavation of soils. Refueling equipment shall be allowed in a pre-designated area. Spill containment kit present on site. And then the following inspections, to do that pre-construction walk, look at stormwater installation prior to any paving, and then a final inspection, and then any additional inspections as needed. That was kind of slowly scrolling down. Hopefully everyone was able to read that, but it's publicly on the screen.
So I move that we issue order of conditions with conditions that have just been displayed on screen and entered into the meeting minutes. NOI 2420, room 3A. I have seconds.
Second.
Second,
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Charlie Romano.
Valerio Romano, aye.
Aye, that motion passes 4-0-0. I am also going to I move that we issue a variance for work as shown.
Sorry, Tom, this is one of those rare projects that's exempt from our bylaws.
Okay.
Yep.
So public hearing for NOI 2420, room 380 is now closed.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Appreciate your time.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, guys. You too.
Next is a resumption of the public hearing for NOI 2414 at 159 Atlantic Avenue. Sandra, you're going to catch your plane after all.
Oh, yeah.
Good
Hey,
evening.
Brendan.
How you doing?
Good. I do see the Higginsons on the call. Not sure if they want to stay in the audience, but
They should be. They should be there. Are they not?
let me just give them permission to talk instead. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Ginevra. If you guys are there. Yep. Okay. I think that's everyone, Brendan.
Great.
Right.
Okay. For the record, Brendan Sullivan with Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. Here for 32 Lothrop Street. So since the last meeting, you can see my screen, I assume, right?
Yes.
Great. So since the last meeting, we were asked to provide more updated, more robust planting plan, and also enhance the mitigation area as well. So we have mitigation for a 2-to-1 ratio for the driveway in the 50-foot buffer, the 0 to 50-foot buffer, and we're doing a 1-to-1 replacement for work between the 50 and the 100-foot buffer. So that's shown in the brown areas here and the brown area on the north side of the driveway. And then on sheet 2, we have a number of species. I think looks like 36 in total in mitigation area A, which is the lower portion, and 38 in total species in area B, which is this upper part. Area A is totally within the 0 to 50-foot buffer. Area B bisects the 50-foot buffer. Some of it's within the 50, some of it's outside of the 50. As I said, this would give a 2-to-1 ratio for the driveway within the 50-foot buffer and a 1-to-1 ratio for the driveway within the 50 to the 100-foot buffer. I think that's about it from my end. I know I know there was a few members that did a site visit out there earlier this week. I was unable to attend. Sorry about that, but look forward to hearing from your comments as a result of the site visit. With that, I'll leave it to the board for comments.
If you have any additional information.
Tom, your mic is dying.
Oh, I'm leaning too far back.
Not really.
No.
I need to plug something in.
Charlotte, do you have any comments?
Sorry, Tom, were you asking for me or for the commissioners who went to the site?
I just wondered if you had any further comments. To start.
I think it depends on the commission, if I'm being honest. I mean, I don't know, based on our last discussions and based on the site visit that you guys went to. I'm not sure. Yeah, I know some commissioners were going, multiple ways about looking at alternatives, looking at this design, moving mitigation plantings, asking for a more, descriptive mitigation planting that Brendan showed that the applicants designed. So I think depending on the commission's direction, I can offer additional input.
So maybe I could ask a question, because I was on one of the site visits. One question I had was about this drainage system that eventually flows out to Sandy Cove, and I don't know if that's, my question is that even germane to this dialogue and review? Because I think what I learned on the site was that it seems like it's a very old system draining from, I assume, stormwater, but I'm not really sure, off of Hobart Lane, following a drainage ditch, and then going out to outflowing to Sandy Cove. And so, well, one question is we're putting a driveway on it. So what happens if, will that survive? And then two, is that the second part is probably maybe a question of scope. Is that even in scope to say, is this the best plan for that drainage all the way out to Sandy Cove? I don't know if I made.
Sure. So as far as the drainage system itself, it's a very old drainage system. It comes from private property, most of it, if not all of it. Well, Lothrop Lane is a private drive anyway, so technically it is entirely on private property. But most of this drainage system it's not even really capturing anything from the road. It's draining a low portion from abutters to the north of us on the backside of Lothrop and the far end of Hobart Lane. So it's really picking up a low area that's, and I think I mentioned it before, it's kind of similar to a mini Treats Pond situation, where there probably is a wetland back there, a couple of properties north of this, that it discharges from. But it's really, to call it a drainage system, it's really just, I think of a drainage system in a street, with catch basins and manholes and stuff like that. This is more of a pipe just to get water out of the low area so it doesn't collect during storm events or anything like that and discharge it out to Sandy Cove. When years ago, Sandy Cove is one of those coves where it is, I get the terminology wrong, but accreting, where it's actually the sand is building up in there. It's not, the sand isn't washing away. So the sand, eventually, covers the outlet of the pipe. So it does need to be maintained and routinely extended. I think the fix for that pipe is probably a different scope. This project is really, like I said, I think I've stated before, is really just to gain access to the buildable portion of this lot. And with the mitigation plantings and the impervious nature of the driveway, is going to have, little to no effect on the drainage that's out there now. I mean, there's a drainage problem out there. We all know that, but this isn't going to exacerbate the problem. And as you know from your, stormwater bylaw, not that this is a stormwater permit, but the stormwater bylaw is really just to make sure that you're not increasing the problem. It's not to solve every drainage problem in town. It's really just make sure it doesn't increase.
Well, I think that's my question. It feels like, if we're putting a driveway over this pipe, maybe we're not, I'm not sure where I'm convinced that it's not increasing the problem. We saw how accretive the beach was, and it's blocked up now. So this is only going to fill back in. And I know, thanks to the diligence of the homeowner, they're continue to work to maintain this. But is there a better solution here than dumping out to Sandy Cove if we're going to put a driveway in?
I'm not sure what your question is. So is there a better solution for the location of the driveway or the location of the drain? Which way are you going?
Location of the driveway. The location or the system of drainage that's going to be impacted by putting a driveway over it.
Well, I think it's kind of a bigger issue because it's, I've done plenty of work on the other side of Hobart Lane, we've done work for the last 3 seaside houses back there, and they've all had problems about, down there is just they're just infiltration catch basins, so they fill up routinely and just overflow, and then end up probably flowing down through this system here because it's just a low area pocket that collects water. And there was discussions, with the town and stuff about, extending a drain, out through the right of way, through the beach, out in that direction. But that it really didn't go anywhere. This one, it's all Lothrop Lane it's all private property between Lothrop Lane and the beach. So this is really the only outlet to it. And I know the Higginsons are maybe in the process of thinking of doing something in the near future of either, replacing the pipe, maybe making a bigger pipe, and maybe extending it further down the beach.
I think that's where I'm getting at though. Like, why wouldn't we do it now if we're going to put a driveway in? Like, it feels like if it's a very old system, do you know for a fact that this is going to survive having a driveway over it?
Well, yeah, so we have had a note that we're going to check the integrity of the pipe, and if it does need to be replaced, we'll replace it. But this is not to increase the size of the pipe to alleviate the problem. That could be something that's done further down the road.
So really our focus is on the pipe where it is within the limit of work, where it is from the driveway, and that's what we need to focus on, because the southeast end of that pipe, the outlet to Sandy Cove, is not part of this submission. But just to Sanji's point, it seems to me that this is an opportunity when you're out there constructing the driveway to excavate that pipe and probably replace it just as a matter of routine.
You talk about the pipe
And
to
The driveway crosses the pipe.
Yeah, and like I said, I got a note on there that says that we'll check the integrity of the pipe, and if it needs to be replaced, we can replace it. Another thing that probably needs to be done is, I think I stated before, is to excavate that ditch out, because the siltation that's built up in there is near the crown of the pipe. So, the capacity of it is really diminished on both ends at this point.
I was out there, I took a look at the north end of that pipe, and the neighbor has filled in the pipe with gravel. So I wouldn't be surprised if that pipe is pretty restricted. Some of that gravel's got to escape down that pipe, and that's part of the problem. That's on somebody else's property though, and not part of the project.
Right. Well, you talk about the inlet end, the north of the off property.
Yeah.
Oh, up behind that barn, I think it was up there.
Yeah.
Okay. I've not been up that far, but
The pipe is not fully open. There's a pile of gravel on it.
okay.
It's working as a filter, I suppose, but it's also restricted flow. And since it's loose gravel, I can imagine that it's probably some of it's getting carried down that pipe and restricting it. So
Sure.
I mean, the real solution is to take out that whole pipe and put in a new one, I suppose, and have a proper inlet and outlet to it. But again, that's on somebody else's property, so. The best you can do is fix, if the pipe integrity is compromised, is to replace it before the driveway goes in. But as to the rest of the drainage system, that's really not part of the scope of this problem or of this application. So I don't know that our comments are. I think our comments should be restricted to the area where.
Well, I think that's the clarification I wanted, because when reading the bylaws, it sounded, I'm not a lawyer, it sounded like we have to consider drainage into coastal systems, but maybe I'm thinking that out of, that's the guidance I was looking for, Charlotte. Like, how much of this is in our purview, because we have to consider drainage to coastal systems.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough situation because obviously the existing drainage conditions are of course not ideal and have been in place for a long time. So as part of this permit, it's awkward to address those existing conditions in terms of improving them. However, you know, with this submission, I think the commission has the right to look at whether or not the project will have an adverse impact and make conditions worse, or if it'll keep the status quo or improve. So I think in terms of the permitting for this particular project, you definitely want to consider any temporary or permanent impacts to the wetland resource areas and the existing conditions that are out there. But unfortunately, I don't think it's part of it. I don't think we can force the applicants to fix, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think we can force them to fix the whole existing drainage condition under this permit, but we definitely don't want to make it worse, if that makes sense, Sanji.
Yeah, I think so. I think I get the gist of it. I don't know if oh, yeah, let me think about that.
Yeah, it's tough. And Mr. Chair, I know we're getting close to the 15 minutes. We do have some comments in the queue I can quickly read. And we did receive another letter that I sent to you guys earlier this week from another abutter. Do you want me to just read the comments real quick?
Sure.
Hi, Charlotte, Lucy Hornby, 36 Lothrop. Please add us to the comment roster. And then I'd like to clarify there are two pipes. One drains from our property to the seasonal pond on the Higginson's lawn. The other drains from the Higginson seasonal pond to Sandy Cove.
Charlotte, did you hear
Can you
me?
do me a favor? Oh, sorry, Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. Did you?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I didn't hear you either, Chair, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, I didn't hear you, Tom.
So Sanjay's had his opportunity to talk about what he saw. Either Chris or Valerio should go next.
Yeah, we walked primarily looking at the option, the alternative driveway to access the new property from Atlantic Ave, and we walked the pipe. We looked at the pipes where it crosses the existing mulch driveway and turns into that little kind of wetland area, and then connects again to the pipe and goes under Lothrop down to the beach. So I have a good understanding of the proposed plans now. Based on what I saw in the mitigation plan that's in front of us, I think it does, even though it does cross the 50, it's already disturbed to a degree. The tree removal would be minimal, and with the addition of, you know, the 2-to-1 mitigation, I find that that's the option I would favor. I'm not really considering the pipe. I think the integrity of it is important to keep it functional for this portion of it. I think any further work to extend the pipe or to, you know, to look at drainage otherwise would be kind of a separate issue. But in terms of access to this new lot, I think the Lothrop lane is favorable. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I basically mimic what Chris said. I have confidence that the Atlantic Avenue access, I don't see that as making much sense compared to the minimal additional driveway to Lothrop. I have confidence, especially if we made it some sort of condition, and it looks like there's a note already that, you know, the existing pipe that's under where the driveway will go will be, you know, looked at and made sure that it remains or is replaced if need be. So I'm in favor of the Lothrop proposal. Then later on, once next new plans come, then we'll have more stormwater issues to look at when a new house is proposed to be built, I assume. So don't think we need to dig too much into the rest of the drainage issues on the site. We did walk it all the way down to the beach and saw where it flows, and it looks like the existing homeowners are, you know, doing it, you know, putting in the effort into keeping that drain running and working for their neighbors. And I guess so I'm in favor. I pretty much mimic what Commissioner McIntyre just said. I think one thing, if we're going to read the comments and the letters, or at least go through the letters from the abutters, I'd like to know which like just help me understand which abutter is which address, so that we can know, because it seems like there's a couple distinct sort of abutter issues. One abutter issue is, you know, the increased traffic on Lothrop, which I think is minimal. We're talking about, I think, with just another single family home. So, and then another set of abutter issues is any adverse impact, like harming this pipe might have on those up from it, where the water collects and then runs to this property. And so just knowing which abutter letter we're talking about, I think would be valuable as we're, you know, going through them. But other than that, I pretty much mimic what Chris said. And right now I look pretty favorably on what I've heard so far.
Now, we can hear from the abutters.
Sorry, Tom, I didn't hear you the first time. So if the abutters have any comments, we just have to be really quick because we're just past the 15-minute mark. I cannot see who's sorry. I'm just going to promote Tony Catlin from 7 and 17 Lothrop Lane. And Tony, thank you again for sending your letter. But if you're able to just be really brief, because we're on a tight schedule tonight. If you wanted to add anything, either to summarize your letter, anything in addition to the letter that you sent. Sorry, you're muted.
I'm sorry. From our family's perspective, just trying to understand why the alternate entry point off Atlantic hasn't been explored with the same enthusiasm as the Lothrop entrance. I think what we said in our note, that would alleviate any concerns, et cetera, that we're talking about with drainage, wetlands, et cetera. So I'm trying to understand why the other Atlantic Ave entry point hasn't been explored. So that's the main point there. The other point is if this does get approved off Lothrop, we've inquired about, construction mitigation plans, et cetera. Are there any conditions about that?
Yeah, can I ask you, Mr. Catlin, sorry, where are you in a butter? Are you part of the drainage sort of concern or the increased traffic concern, or both? Like, where is your place?
We're both. We're 7 Lothrop. So if you walk down the top of Atlantic Ave, we're the first house on the right.
Okay.
Then we're the third house, 17 Lothrop, at the third house at the right.
Okay. So the third house would have some drainage concerns, and the first house is the traffic sort of concerns.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Well, traffic is outside of our jurisdiction.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But how is construction concerns and staging and all the mitigation? And like I said, you guys probably walked down Lothrop, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
You saw how narrow it is, how low the canopy is, and everything that could be disturbed. So what kind of conditions, if this entry point off Lothrop gets approved, what kind of conditions are they going to be regarding all of that?
Yeah, I did draft a recommended set of conditions. I think that I hope can include everybody's concerns. I just think it depends on the commission's decision tonight. If you guys have a strong, we've heard from some commissioners that they seem like that the Lothrop Lane entrance is more preferable at this time, but I think, I don't know if any other commissioners think differently, but I did try to incorporate a lot of everyone's concerns in a draft set of conditions, which I'm happy to share at any point, but just wanted to wait and see what the commission thought first.
Can we just ask why the Atlantic Ave entry point is not favorable?
I could say, and without commenting on favorable or unfavorable, there's a significant amount of tree removal. I forget the numbers off my head that would be required, as well as a significant amount of ledge, given how well curated and how well maintained those trees are. it seemed like the trade-off here would net a much more amenable way to maintain the environment and some of the trees versus coming all the way from Atlantic Avenue.
Mr. Chair, we do have a hand raised in the audience from Lucy Hornby for 36 Lothrop, if we want to just allow her to quickly say her comments.
Yes, please.
Hi, Lucy, you're muted.
Hi,
And-
can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, thanks again for taking our comment, and thanks to the commission for spending so much time on this. I'd just like to point out a few things. One is that we requested to be involved in this site visit as the property that's most directly affected, and we were not notified by the Higginses until the day after it took place. I think if we had been, we could have clarified some points about the pipe. Second, I'd like to point out that our property, flooding on our property has noticeably increased since the projects that Mr. Sullivan mentioned he had worked on Hobart Lane. And that's why we are particularly concerned that the permit include a requirement that the pipe be checked before construction and that any damage to the pipe result in its replacement. You guys are about to allow very heavy construction equipment to go down a one-lane road into and over a pipe that we don't control and that has never seen any sort of traffic on top of it. We are very concerned that this is going to result in additional flooding on our property unless it's a very firm and clear condition of your permit. I noted that 2 meetings ago, Mr. Sullivan said it didn't matter what his plans showed because the new owner could change them at will. So we'd really like to reiterate that we view that our only protection against increased flooding on our driveway that my 86-year-old mother drives through every single day of her life, that the only protection we have to make sure that the draining continues to go through this property cut out, be that this be very clearly stated in the permit. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Can you clarify exactly where your property is?
Yeah, where the property, if you look at the plan, you see that square at the top. So we're the property that abuts this new plan on two sides. The driveway is going to go right along our property line. And our pipe comes from, you see, you go down the curve on Lothrop Lane, then you go into the woods up towards the top. And our pipe is currently marked by an extremely thin line that crosses the end of the proposed driveway.
So you own the garage where the pipe sees daylight?
Well, again, this is why we really wanted to be part of the site visit. The pipe does not come from a garage. It comes from a sort of sewer cover, I guess you'd say, immediately in front of our mailbox. And it drains the entire gravel turnaround area that you may have seen in front of the garage, but it doesn't come from the garage at all.
No, I didn't say that it came from the garage. I said it was near the garage.
Yeah, if you guys walked in, I'm not sure how the visit took place exactly, but if you walked in and you looked at that current chipped entryway where the Higginsons park a light boat, just beyond that is our mailbox, and in front of that is the sort of sewer cover, and then that drains that gravel driveway and turnaround that you might have seen there. And then to reiterate, our property is the square cutout that you see at the top of your screen. The north, south, east, west compass is more or less smack on our house.
Sure. So the pipe is part of the pipe is on your property. Is that correct?
Correct. So about a foot or two, not very much, and then it goes into the Higginsons, what's now the Higginsons property, but will be this third flag lot. And so in the past, there's been basically 90 years of friendly relations between the two families where the Higginsons had, maintained and kept detritus from building up at the opening end of that, the outlet end of that pipe. It then flowed into this sort of seasonal pond that forms on their yard. And then the second pipe, which Mr. Fernando noted, that goes from the tail end of their pond, seasonal pond, across Lothrop Lane and onto the beach, which, as you correctly noted, is accreting. So the Higginsons over the years have routinely extended and cleared that pipe, the second pipe. Our concern is that, of course, we're talking about new neighbors here, and we're talking about significant weight of vehicular traffic, especially construction traffic, which the pipe has never experienced. So that's why we're quite concerned that, and we also don't know to what degree the new driveway will also cause water to not flow out of our property, which is the lowest in the area. So that's why we're very concerned that the pipe, its state and its possible replacement or mitigation be included in the permit. And obviously, because the last 2 feet or so goes onto our property, we'd cooperate with the new owners in that replacement if needed. But, you know, we don't control the land that this pipe goes under.
So just to be clear, I believe what Tom is speaking of is, so it does go to a sewer manhole in your driveway.
That's right.
And then there's a pipe upstream of that goes and daylights beside your barn, does it not?
My understanding is the main one is that sewer hole, but I'm not at home right now, so.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
It would have helped if we had been included in the site visit, to be honest.
but I think that's the inlet that Tom was talking about, that's beside your barn. Maybe you don't know it's there and you're dumping, you know, waste and gravel there that blocks up the pipe. That could be part of the problem.
Sorry, Mr. Sullivan, we are not dumping waste or any gravel in anything. If there's gravel in
talking
the
about
pipes,
yard.
it's the flooding and the rain and the increased backup from the other construction on Northrop Lane and Hobart Lane is pushing more flooding into our yard.
Yeah,
And
Would the homeowners be like amenable to just agreeing to replace the pipe when they put in this driveway? Is that an option we could consider?
We don't know who these homeowners are going to be because the Higginsons are going to sell this
No,
lot.
Or I guess what I'm
So
saying,
that's
like,
why
if
it
we were
really
to
needs to be
consider-
in the permit. We have no control over who these people are going to be. I mean, we hope to have friendly relations with them, but we
Mr.
don't know.
Mrs. Sanjay is talking about you as the homeowner, I believe.
You as a homeowner, are you
Yeah.
willing, like, if we create
Replace-
a if we create a
Yes.
requirement that the pipe is removed, are you willing to agree to?
If the
Um,
pipe is damaged or if the pipe is no longer able to adequately carry water out, we are absolutely willing to contribute to our portion of it. The majority of it is
No,
not.
I think you're not hearing what I'm saying. Like, if we were to approve this project to build a driveway, could we consider a stipulation that in creating this driveway, the pipe has to be replaced? And would that alleviate your concerns?
Let her speak.
If the pipe is damaged, we'd like it to be replaced. If the pipe is fine, then we're okay with leaving it. Our main concern is that the pipe continued to drain our property.
I think Mr. Sullivan made it clear more than once tonight that they are going to inspect the pipe. And if it's compromised in any way, it's going to be replaced.
Okay, but again, sir, Mr. Sullivan's not going to be in charge. This land is going to be sold. And there's a new owner who's going to be here. So if it's in Mr. Sullivan's plans, my understanding is that they are not binding on the new owner. It would have to be in your permit in order for us to have any possibility of going to the new owners and saying that we want this to be honored. As our understanding is that these plans, because they don't reflect the future owner of this lot, they don't necessarily have to be honored by that owner unless it is stipulated in the permit.
Absolutely do. They're always stipulated in the permit. The plans go along with the orders of conditions that are issued by the Conservation Commission. The plans become part of the permit. You have to follow the plans in the orders of conditions.
I think as an order of conditions, we could just condition it that at a minimum, we
moving in your
there's an
direction.
assessment of the full length of the pipe.
The less we say, the better.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's on private property, and so we can't require that the Hornbys or anybody else do anything with the pipe on their property. However, the Higginsons can certainly, and I think the difficulty of replacing the pipe is going to be minimal. When you're talking about getting in there and grading a driveway, it's not that big a deal to excavate that pipe and replace it if it's compromised.
And
Yeah, we
so
just want to
sorry,
make
go
sure
ahead.
it's part of that the new owners, whoever they are aware of this issue and that they are required to address it. And, you know, obviously we would cooperate with them But you know, if a large truck drives over it and crushes it and we suddenly find several inches of water the next rainstorm in our driveway, you know, we're trying to avoid that scenario.
In an effort to, go ahead, sorry, Mr. Chair.
It goes with the property, so whoever buys it is still bound by the order of conditions.
Okay, great. Well, that's what we're hoping that our concerns be included in. Thank you.
Let it be. Let it be.
Guys, the chair recognizes Charles Higginson.
You,
Charlie,
but you can talk.
do you want me to tell?
We have already indicated that if the pipe breaks while we're working on it, we will fix it. I would also note that the pipe goes underneath our driveway and boat storage place is the same over on the other side, on Lucille McLaughlin's side, so that whatever happens, one place probably happens to the other. As it has been pointed out to me, the pipe begins at the far side of her garage, goes to a drainage on her side of the garden near her mailbox, and then passes underneath our boat storage and to a pipe, which we've looked at, and it seems to be clear. If it isn't clear, we will take care of it.
And to answer your question, Mr. Fernando, we're of course totally willing to cooperate and assist if there's an extension of the pipe required to be expanded on our side. So we're not going to put up trouble if somebody wants to expand it or otherwise mitigate it. We just want to make sure that the new owners are aware and address this.
And I'm not aware of the breadth of our ability to set conditions here. But Brendan, is the easy answer here just add replacing the pipe to the plan, and then we've relayed everyone's conditions? Like, I feel like there's an easy button here we're not pressing.
We'd be more than happy to do that. It's probably 2 sections of pipe we would need, you know, I mean, they come in 8-foot sections. We're talking about a 12-foot driveway. So yeah, if it would, I mean, I've added the note to the plan, as Tom had said, that we will inspect the pipe as part of the process, and if it needs to be replaced, we'll replace it. But if it's a simple, you want to put in the conditions that the pipe needs to be replaced within the property, on the north side of the property, not the other end. I mean, I don't want to speak for the Higginsons, but if they feel that's okay, then, you know, we could, and that's going to get us through tonight, then absolutely.
Hey, could I chime in just for 1 second? Sorry, this is Commissioner Valerio. Oh, sorry, Mr. Higginson.
Just say yes.
Yes, we totally agree to that. And we had tried to make that clear beforehand too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I don't know if the condition should be automatic replacement. It should be, you know, review, and if compromised, you know, then replace. But we don't want to replace something where replacing it might create more problems. If it's working well now and it stays working well despite the driveway you put over it, then let's just leave it. I think this has been a long exercise. When the introduction was like, we're going to take care by Mr. Sullivan, was we're going to watch this pipe and take care of it and make sure that it's not compromised during construction. So I think we can stay with that as the condition, and I think that solves everybody's problem.
Let it go.
Mr. Chair, we're definitely, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we are well past 15. We're at like 35 minutes. In listening to everyone's conversations, I've prepared a draft set of conditions that may hopefully address everybody's concerns, but that would be if the commission's ready to vote.
Yeah, I think you should read the conditions.
Sorry?
I think you should read the conditions you drafted.
Okay. So the first one I think will be most pertinent to what we're discussing right now. So as the Higginsons have previously said, that they were open to replacing the pipe or repairing it if it's damaged. So prior to construction and any site work, an applicable licensed professional and/or professional engineer shall evaluate the status of the existing drainage pipe at the beginning of the proposed gravel driveway. The professional shall provide a status report of the pipe before and after construction to the Conservation Commission in writing, and shall visit the site during construction at the direction of the agent and the building inspector as needed. Any damage to the pipe from construction shall be immediately reported to the Conservation Commission and be repaired or replaced to pre-construction conditions and the wetlands buffer shall be restored to pre-construction conditions as appropriate. Any repair or damage to the pipe on abutting properties shall be coordinated with the abutting property owners with their written approval to coordinate repair replacement with the project applicant owner. So this last sentence, just for everyone's reference, our orders of conditions do not allow access, damage, or injury to anybody else's property, which is why I've put in with written approval from neighbors. So worst case scenario, if there is something that happens to the pipe that relates to damage on abutting properties, that the applicant or the property owner would coordinate the efforts with the neighbors to replace or fix it. Does that first condition sound appropriate to everybody before I keep going?
See what Brian says.
One tweak, Charlotte, somehow like we just need to make sure that the pipe's flowing today. Like I didn't get down there and look at it, but like it should be unimpeded and flowing today. And that should be the condition that's maintained.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, do you want to write that after construction? The pipe, I mean, I kind of said it before that they were going to inspect the pipe before and after construction, but I can say after construction, the pipe shall be inspected.
And confirm that it's flowing, just because I don't want someone to come around and say like, hey, it's blocked right now, so it'll be blocked afterwards.
No, it currently drains our driveway.
Okay.
How's that, Sanji?
Yeah.
The pipe shall be inspected to confirm pre-construction flow conditions.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I had one other comment too. After the word properties in the next to last sentences, any repair or damage to the pipe on abutting properties shall be coordinated property owners with their written approval. And then I'd put comma space, which shall not be unreasonably conditioned, withheld, or delayed.
Right.
We wouldn't want an abutter to delay the whole thing, the complete, a COC, because they're saying,
Yeah, thank you.
unreasonably conditioned, withheld, or delayed. Yeah.
I can't spell. Thank you. Does that look good, Valeria?
Yeah.
It's good.
Okay.
That's what we're gonna get.
And Charlie, I'm sorry, just want to get your verbal. Does this wording for the first condition sound appropriate?
I agree. I approve as I have several times before.
Okay, yep, just wanted to make sure you guys were good with the fine print. And I think if
Charlotte, that word is unreasonably conditioned.
conditioned, yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Nope, you're good. Thank you. I appreciate the legal language. But I guess, Mr. Chair, can I keep going unless anybody else has concerns? I think this encompasses everyone's concerns, but please correct me if I'm wrong.
Continue.
And all right. And then tree protection barriers shall be installed per plan inspected by the agent prior to site activity. This is up to the commission. I'll come back to this one. And then no work shall occur during flooding conditions on Lothrop Lane and or on the property to prevent damage to surrounding resource areas and buffer zones. I mean, this is common sense. No one's going to work during a major storm, but we just don't want to put that in the permit, just to be clear. The site shall be stabilized with any additional erosion stabilization measures before and after anticipated storm events. That's very common for a lot of sites that are working within or near floodplains. The contractor shall submit a construction management plan to the conservation agent to coordinate construction ingresses and egresses, vehicle parking, staging, stockpiling with the applicants on 159 Atlantic Ave to the maximum extent possible or practicable. I don't think we can forbid people to go down Lothrop, but I think we can say that utilizing Lothrop Lane during construction is discouraged as part of this order to prevent unnecessary temporary disturbance in the buffer zones. I think with the concern of the temporary disturbance in the 50-foot buffer, we have no jurisdiction over traffic, but I think to protect the buffers, these two conditions 4 and 5, I hope this incorporates most concerns from the commission and abutters and is reasonable during construction, and we can work it out with the contractor just to make sure we have a plan. No comments? Okay. And then last but not least, the following inspections are required. Additional inspections may be required as appropriate. Pre-construction to review existing pipe conditions, erosion control, stake limit of work, and tree protection barriers with the supervising contractor and licensed engineer for the pipe. Pre-gravel installation for the driveway immediately after clearing. Prior to gravel installation, review limit of work with supervising contractor and with required licensed professional and or engineer and agent. This is, again, depends on the limit of work. And then pre-landscaping and restoration review landscaping in all areas for restoration with the appropriate landscaping contractor, and then a final site inspection with the note that additional inspections may be required throughout the project. This would be if the commission is accepting of the proposed plan.
Okay, last call for commissioners to comment. Okay, with that, I move that we issue an order of conditions for NOI 2414 159 Atlantic Avenue. Conditions, the conditions are as shown on screen and read aloud and entered into the meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Sanjeev Fernando,
Sanju Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Valerio Romano,
Valerio Romano, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That vote passes 4-0-0. I move to issue a variance for work in the 50-foot buffer. I have seconds.
Second.
Sanjeev Fernando,
Sanju Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Valerio Romano, aye.
Motion passes 4-0-0. Okay, so that, so the public hearing for NOI 2414 at 159 Atlantic Avenue is now closed.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Okay. We are moving on. Next is a resumption of the public hearing for NY 2034 at Turkey Hill Road. This has been continued from July 11th, 2024.
Sorry, 1 second. Hi, Julie. Hi, Wayne.
Hi,
Is Sean on the call? I don't see his name.
I don't think Sean will join us. I can convey anything to him.
Okay, no worries. Julie and Wayne, would you like me to start and then you guys would follow up, or vice versa? Whatever you guys want.
I'm happy to let you start.
Oh, sorry, wrong screen. Yeah, sure. Sorry, did you say you want to start?
Oh, I was happy to let you start.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so just briefly summarizing our last hearing, I know the commissioners had various thoughts on how we can go about with this project. The, Julie and Wayne had proposed 2 project alternatives, which I can pull up again. But since the commission seemed like they wanted to kind of test this project out first, if we were to grant a variance for the use of herbicides, I worked with Julie and Wayne to kind of come up with a time frame and a suggested set of conditions if the commission were to allow the project to move forward. This would be a multi-year project that would extend, most likely past the 3-year time frame. Given if they were to start in August, in order to evaluate the full effectiveness of the treatment alternatives, we really would need more than 3 years. So I did write some language to kind of acknowledge that without obviously signing them up for an extension in advance, just that we would need more than 3 years. So having said that, I can pull up the conditions, but let me quickly pull up the project alternatives just so that you guys have those in front of you, because those are going to be the 2 alternatives that are discussed in the conditions. So I will pull that up right now. And then scroll down to the table.
And
So,
Charlotte, excuse me, just to jump in here quickly. We did hear from the commission at the last hearing that there was some interest in further evaluating the alternatives between alternative 1 and alternative 2, as kind of, testing both of them. And so that's reflected in the conditions that we'll actually do alternative 1 in a part of the IVW and the buffer, and then alternative 2 in another part. So I just wanted to make sure the commission knew of that.
Yes, thank you, Julie. And so, yeah, alternative one, just really quickly, was to mow and use approved herbicide methods in the IVW and the buffer, biannual mowing frequency. Alternative two was to not mow in the IVW and just do mechanical and approved wet herbicide application, and then biannually mow in the 25-foot buffer. So the whole project area, which would be encompassing of the 25-foot buffer and the IVW itself, would be split into two sections, and you do alternative one and alternative two on those both halves of the project area. So I can pull up the conditions to kind of show that. Just wanted to offer that context. I think you guys can see my whole screen, so this is just loading. Normally I don't share my whole screen, but okay. So this, just so that you guys see in blue here, this is how we're going to be defining years 1 through 3, starting from August to the subsequent year for August. So that's just the time references. And then conservation commissioners, in addition to the agent, shall have the right to inspect the property at any time under the order. So this is for any curious commissioners that want to take a look. Prior to any restoration work, a site visit with the Concom shall be conducted between late spring and early fall to inspect existing vegetation coverage within the IVW and 25-foot buffer. The buffer and IVW shall be staked to delineate limit of work. Wetland flags may need to be reflagged with the wetland scientist as appropriate. And then Julie and Wayne and I had discussed putting metal stakes around the wetland and buffer zone so that they last for 3 years, so that we can monitor the treatment for that time frame. Prior to any restoration work with herbicides, the appropriate licenses and certifications for all herbicide applicators shall be submitted to the agent. I believe Wayne and maybe Sean are both the licensed applicators for the trustee side. And then prior to any restoration work, a vegetation community classification survey as described below shall be performed within the IVW and the buffer by the applicant and agent. The following shall be performed as part of the survey. The project area within the IVW and the 25-foot buffer shall be split into 2 even plus or minus sections to evaluate the existing plant community and establish baseline data prior to any restoration work. Plant species shall be identified within each section by quadrant sampling, either by random or belt transect methods as best determined by the applicant and the agent. The survey shall include native, non-native, and invasive plants found within the IVW and buffer in both sections. And then the percentage and coverage abundance from quadrant sampling shall be determined for all identified species. Any species with abundance greater than 50% shall be identified as dominant species. And then a written summary of the existing vegetation results within each section of the IVW and buffer shall be submitted to the agent and the commission. So that's before restoration work, just establishing that baseline data of what we have in each of the sections. And then for the, we're requesting 2 years because you really can't fully look at how treatment looks after 1 year because you have to go with the subsequent year. So we're saying for the first 2 years of restoration work, so year 1 and year 2, which shall be defined as the start date of restoration work to the same date of the subsequent year. So year 1 shall be from August 24 to 25, year 2, August 25 to 26. The restoration work specified for both alternative 1 and 2, as summarized in the habitat management plan, shall be performed within each section of the IVW and buffer specified below. After review of the classification survey results, each of the 2 sections of the IVW shall be tested using the restoration method specified in alternatives 1 and 2 of the management plan between year 1 and year 2. Restoration efforts on the western side crossing into Hingham shall also be coordinated with the Hingham Conservation Agent and Commission as appropriate, since there's a little bit that crosses into Hingham. All methods specified in the Turkey Hill Management Plan shall be followed for alternative 1 within year 1 and 2. Changes to the plans in either alternative are not allowed without further discussion from the commission since we're testing these methods. And then by December 15th, 2026, which would be the following, after year 2, the applicant and agent will perform a site visit to conduct a preliminary assessment of the effectiveness of restoration treatments. A written summary of this will be submitted to the commission no later than March 2027 and shall be discussed with the commission during a public meeting subsequent to the submission of the written report. The written report shall include, but not be limited to, all reporting requirements specified in the management plan of the reporting section, all methods utilized for alternatives 1 and 2, including the total amount of herbicides used in each of the 2 sections within the IVW and the buffer, and the frequency and extent of mowing in each of the 2 sections. The total square footage of area where mowing and herbicide use was performed shall be measured and or estimated as appropriate within the two sections of the IVW and buffer. The vegetation survey shall be conducted again using the same parameters and methodology as specified in condition 4 above after restoration activities to determine the coverage abundance of native, non-native, and invasive plant species found within the two sections of the IVW and buffer after year 2 for comparison of effectiveness of both alternatives. And then once that's done, upon the results, review of the results of year 1 and 2, the commission and applicant shall agree whether to continue the restoration work utilizing alternative 1, alternative 2, or to continue utilizing both alternatives in both sections of the IVW and buffer. We left that as a flexibility option depending on what the commission, discusses 2 years in the future. The IVW Habitat Management Plan shall be revised as appropriate to reflect the restoration methodologies moving forward for year 3, which would be August 2026 to August 2027. August 2027, for reference, would be the end of the order of conditions. So that's working within the 3-year order of conditions timeframe with what we have so far. And so moving forward, these conditions are definitely going to extend past that 3-year permit timeframe. So I'll just quickly keep reading them. The subsequent preliminary report with the reporting requirements specified in condition 5 above shall be submitted to the commission no later than the end of year 3, which would be right before the permit expires to just get that report in. And then after year 3 and prior to the order's expiration date, the applicant shall submit an extension permit request to the commission as necessary to continue assessment of the alternatives and treatment effectiveness. So at some point before the permit expires, they're going to submit an extension request so that we can review the report and decide whether or not we want to extend the permit. The commission shall review the permit or the preliminary report during this time. Should the results be acceptable to the commission may choose to grant an extension to continue the restoration work. Should the commission choose to grant an extension permit for the order, the restoration work shall continue as discussed within the extended time frame. By the end of year 4, which is August 2028, the applicant shall work with the conservation agent to determine if the Turkey Hill Management Plan goal of less than 5% of invasive species plant cover was achieved within the IVW and the buffer for for either alternative 1, 2, or both. So that's really the year 4 is really when you're going to find out if the treatment was successful, given the timing of the treatments and the mowing. And then if the chosen alternatives after year 4 are found not to be effective, the applicant shall discuss any modifications to the chosen alternative or request to change to the other alternative with the Conservation Commission. I did commission or agent, depends what you guys want. And then by the end of 2028, by December 15th, 2028, the applicant shall submit a comprehensive final report to the commission for review to determine whether the restoration work was successful with the chosen alternative method or methods in accordance with the IVW management plan with the goal of less than 5% of invasive species cover. The report shall be discussed with the commission during a public meeting where the commission may or may not choose to allow long-term restoration maintenance efforts. The maintenance efforts may not include all specified invasive removal methods. The management plan will be revised as necessary to continue the efforts within the IVW and buffer if less than 5% of plant cover is achieved. Long-term maintenance reporting will be discussed as necessary with the commission. And then last but not least, thank you for bearing with me. The required site inspections would be, for pre-restoration to do that vegetative walk and flag the wetlands as needed, do the vegetation classification survey per the conditions above prior to the start of any work with the applicant and the agent, and then all of the year 1 through year 3 restoration site inspections as specified in the management plan and the time points. And then these obviously would be contingent upon any future permitting, but year 4 plus restoration inspections, and then final site inspection to be determined at a future date, depending on when the restoration work is completed. Sorry, I know that was a mouthful, but I guess to quickly summarize, we test the treatments for 2 years. We come to you guys with a preliminary report, and then the commission can decide if you want to keep pursuing alternative 1, alternative 2, or both in both sections of the field or within the whole section or the whole project area. Then you do that until the permit pretty much almost expires. Then they submit another preliminary report with an extension request. The commission provides input there, and then you can decide how long to extend the permit. And then with keeping in mind with year 4, that's really going to be when we know if the treatment options were truly effective or not, and if we achieved that goal of less than 5%. So it does go outside the boundaries of the permit timeframe, but hopefully I worded them in a way that it doesn't obligate you guys to extend the permit. It just, you know, it kind of notes that you almost have to if you want to see the results. And I can go back, but yeah.
Nice work. Commissioner, do you have any comments?
Maybe just a comment. I appreciate the thoroughness of this approach and the methods to evaluate both approaches.
Thank you. Yeah, Julian, Wayne, you guys definitely helped me out with the wording for sure. But yeah, hopefully I think this sets up a pretty good experiment for you guys to kind of see how this stuff works in a, you know, a wetland area. We've never allowed it before, so hopefully this includes everything. But if there's any other thoughts that you guys have or any additional conditions you guys would like to see, you know, just let us know.
Back to there, your videos are off and you're muted.
What was that, Tom? I didn't hear anything you said.
I can't believe my microphone is that bad suddenly. Valerio and Chris, do you have any further comments to make?
I do not. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I think that's I think this is good. I think we've given it a lot of thought, and it's a good opportunity to you know, test this in the field.
Yeah. Valerio.
Valeria, do you have anything else to add? You're also muted.
No, I said I didn't. I had
Oh,
nothing
sorry.
else. Yeah.
Okay, there's no hands raised in the audience or anything, Charlotte, is that right?
1 sec, I'll see if anyone's raising their hand. Nope. No comments.
Back to my script here then. So, I move that we issue an order of conditions for NY 2334 at Turkey Hill with the conditions that have been posted on the on screen, read by our agent and recorded in the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sanjay Fernando.
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Valerio Romano.
Valerio Romano, aye.
Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. I'll also make a motion to issue a variance for work as shown on the plans, which include the IBW itself and the 25-foot buffer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sanjay Fernando.
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Valerio Romano.
Valerio Romano, aye.
Motion passes 4-0-0. Public hearing for.
Oh, sorry, Tom, before you do that, I think you should vote to issue a variance for the use of herbicides within the IVW and the buffer, since we don't allow it as part of our regulations.
And before I do, I just want to state that variances are exclusive to the projects that we've considered at length and in no way set a precedent for their general application to any other project. Each one of these will be evaluated on its merits, and I mean that's basically what a variance is.
Thank you.
I move that to issue variance for use of herbicides within the IPW and the 25-foot buffer for this site at Turkey Hill. Do I have a second?
Second,
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Romano,
Blair Romano, aye.
Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. The public hearing for NOI 2334 Turkey Hill Road is now closed. Good luck with this.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, very much.
Thank you, Julie. Thanks, Wayne.
Next, the resumption of the public hearing for NOI 2417 and stormwater permit 2416 for 195, formerly 193 Sawyer Street, to construct single-family dwelling. It's been continued from June 25th, 2024.
Sorry, I'm jumping the gun here. I just have to switch. Sorry, Teresa, wrong project. Hi, David. Is there anybody else for this project tonight?
Nobody else is gonna make it, but I am certainly here. And
Yeah, sorry, some
I-
people are only using their first names, so if anyone else is here for 195 Sawyer Street representing the applicant, please raise your hand and I'll promote you. Or if you are the applicant.
I think they're away again, to be honest. with
Okay.
you. They're out of the country.
Okay.
But thank you. I don't know who the chairman is tonight, or Mr. or Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, any concerned parties in the audience. My name is David Macwell with Kelly Engineering Group. We helped prepare the documents for the notice of intent for the construction of a single-family home at 193, 195 Sawyer Street. I'm looking for the toggle to share my screen. And I got two screens. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at you guys because I'm looking at my other one trying to share screen. There it is.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and it's usually on the bottom of the Zoom screen.
Yeah. Okay. So can we see the plans?
Yes, may or may not
Okay.
just need to zoom in though.
You want me to? Okay, I will when we get to the other sheets, or this is just the big picture stuff. Let's see, was everybody here at the last meeting, or do I need to go back a little bit and explain the project from the beginning?
I think our commissioners who may or may not have missed the first hearing have all caught up. Please
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Read the
You do
minutes?
not need to
Okay.
go back to the beginning.
Great.
for me
Well,
anyway.
thank you for having us. Project is a single family residential project, buffer zone, outer 50-foot buffer zone. We came to file the project a month or so ago or a couple months ago, had some comments provided by the agent. We responded to those with a second submittal, had a meeting in late June, some comments from commissioners, and then we revised the documents one more time. Now we're back here to present those. I guess we'll pick up where we left off. When we left the meeting, we listened loud and clear to the commission about items that we detailed in our submittal letter that went back in with the plans. And I'll just briefly touch on the comments, and then we'll just go through some of the documents to show you how we address those. One was to provide a landscaping plan. The applicant hired a landscape architect who did provide a landscaping plan. Number two, can the chain link fence be removed from the buffer zone? Plans have been updated to show that the fence has to be removed. I'm going to show you all these once I get through them. I'm just going to summarize. And number three was review ways to reduce the impacts within the buffer zone, reduce hardscape, take a look at the house, location of the retaining wall, and have another look at the drainage. The fourth comment was an observation from looking at near maps or some mapping software that maybe there have been some activities in the buffer zone that were not previously authorized. Attached to the submittal letter with all the documents is also another letter from the applicant explaining trees that had been removed. And we'll go one by one, and then we'll circle back with the details on all those things. So the screen that we have here, and I can zoom in some more, is the original submittal. Existing dwelling is up here. The green lines are the lot lines where a lot has been created in the back here. This was the submittal for a proposed new home. Terrace home, first level here, lower level out the back, story above as well, and some landscaping around the lot. This is the layout plan, just a colored version of the layout and zoning plan. So you'll see we revised the layout and zoning plan. I'm gonna go back and forth real quick because a couple of the things that we talked about were hit very hard here. One being pretty clear, we put it on 2 sheets that the chain link fence that's within the buffer zone is to be removed entirely across the back of the property, all in the buffer zone to get removed. We specified it to be removed by hand. I assume that's the most appropriate thing because we're down close to the wetlands in one area. I assume they put it in by hand as well, so it shouldn't be too bad. Applicant's willing to take any conditions from the commission on the best way to go about removing that fence. Landscaping plan. Well, why don't we just stay on this one? I'm going to go back and forth between the screen. This is the original submittal. We were about 8 feet from the wetlands to the retaining wall. Not from the wetlands, excuse me, from the 50-foot no disturb 50-foot buffer to the retaining wall. You can see we've made that from 8 to 23 feet by doing a few things. As we talked to the applicant about really the need to drive around the back of the building to get down to the landing in the back. They thought about it some more and figured maybe this wasn't the best access to their lower level and the best use of their lower level. And they kind of changed their tune and their plan to do boat restoration and car work. They'll probably do it in the existing garage up here, or maybe even up here, or find somewhere else to do it. So the entirety of the driveway around the back has been removed from the project, which allowed us to scale back the lower court hardscape a little bit, which allowed us to pull in the retaining walls and rethink about everything after listening to some of the commissioners. You'll see that all those improvements were minimized. We're down to about 22 feet off the back of the home. There'll be some a little bit of hardscaping, patio, and then just 6 feet of grass, and then a small retaining wall. Retaining wall is no longer that tall either. Those are really all the layout changes that we made to the plan. The next sheet is landscape plan and landscape mitigation plan. It's kind of two-purposed. We hired LCM Design to help us with a mitigation plan. The first thing they did is they went and took a look at all of the activities, and we sketched on the trails onto the landscaping plan that were observed of the aerial photos and at the site walk. And they talked in detail to the applicant, who revealed they did have a tree company come after 2 trees fell down, and they were going to have those cleaned up, and they observed there was about 4 other trees that needed to come down. So the applicant authorized a tree company to remove those. So 6 trees were removed, and the wood that wasn't infested, I guess, was left at the property, and some of the wood was taken away because it was infested or something. The remains of 1 pine tree and 1 maple are still there. And then in addition to that, 1 tree has to be removed to construct the project. So the landscaping plan that's provided is twofold. One is mitigation for the trees that were previously removed, and mitigation for the tree that has to be removed for the project. And it also provides some plantings within the areas of the buffer zone that are going to be used used within the landscape or hardscaped area. So the mitigation plantings consist, I think, a total of 14 trees and 36 shrubs. I don't think it says it on here, but we would assume that those would be placed by the landscape architect in the field and overseen by the landscape architect for that portion of it. So we're just going to, show you some more of the updates, and then we'll turn it back over. So this plan here is a colored version of our grading plan and stormwater plan. The house is again in the beige color, and the purple is all the drainage we had in the retaining wall. We did think hard about, okay, how can we relocate some of this drainage? first thing we looked is, okay, now that we're not driving over here, we can grade this a little bit better and not have to drop 4 or 6 feet across it to make the driveway. So we're able to grade an area out, move some drainage completely out of the buffer zone over here. That's the majority. That takes about half the house and the driveway up here. We're also able to take some of the drainage that was previously right behind the house and pushing the retaining wall out and put it on the side of the property at what they call they're calling it the middle court, which is just a lawn area for enjoyment, about split level between the front of the house and the back of the house. Stair system will take you around from the front to a lower level and then more stairs to get down to the back. I think those are, for the majority, all of the improvements that we made, which in total are fairly comprehensive when we look at the buffer zone impact charts. Significant reduced in hardscape, significant reduction in pavement. Those are both in and out of the buffer zone, but the buffer zone, I don't think there was any pavement in the buffer zone, but reduced hardscape in the buffer zone, reduced disturbance in the buffer zone, and elimination of even bringing automobiles down to an area that's in the buffer zone. So with that, I think I've presented all of the improvements to the plan. We think that we listened to the commission loud and clear at the last hearing. And with that, I would turn it back over through the chair to the Conservation Commission, any other concerned parties, to further discuss the project and how to best move forward.
Sure.
Yeah, I would just start by saying thank you. It does appear that you've done your best to take into account all the concerns that we had at the last hearing. And it looks like you've removed everything from the 50. I think it's with the mitigation plan. Yeah, it looks like a much improved plan. To begin with. Just trying to. Can you scroll over to the table again? Oh, thank you.
You want to go over to the landscaping plan?
Where you are right there, I just wanted to get a look at the buffer zone impacts again. There we go.
Can we zoom in a little bit more?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we've reduced them quite a bit, and by percentage as well. So I think we are down to, what do we got for hardscape? Hardscaping in the buffer zone's down to 600 square feet. And disturbance is about 2,500.
And what was that down from again? From the old plan? I just
I did notice that it was slightly overstated on the old plan. I do have the old plan up. And the part that was overstated was really on the lot that we're not working on much, which was lot A. I didn't notice it when I had my draftsman put it together, and when I looked at it, he kind of went over to the further than, because we really don't need to do any grading on this lot. It's just a small corner. And we had overstated it in that one. Let me pull it up. But it's still a significant, yeah, it was like 1,300, but that should have been the 250. So 1,000, we're down 2,000. We cut it more than in half, the total disturbance, and we cut the hardscape more than in half as well.
Mr. Chair, we're close to 15 minutes, just being mindful of our
Yep.
less than an hour to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I took so long.
No, thank you,
to go-
David. We
to go
appreciate
through
your input.
the changes made.
No, thank you for going over that.
Yeah, and it's great that you listen carefully and from what I can see, you've addressed basically everything that we pointed out in our previous meetings. Sanjay, do you have a comment or a question?
No, just the one I had about just reminding myself what was the previous plan versus the new plan.
Okay, Valerio?
No, I don't think so. Well, let me ask quickly, how many total trees would unauthorized or not, taken down without coming before us? And then there's this one large tree that looks like it's coming down. What's that total number?
6.
6 is the total number. And then the total number of trees, not bushes that you're putting in it for mitigation?
It's the 36 bushes and then 14 trees. And those are all, beyond the retaining wall and beyond the development. There's additional plantings up on the terrace and everything, but those aren't counted as the mitigation. So the trees are kind of sporadic. The legend is down here. So there's 14 trees and 36 shrubs. They want to use the shrubs in the areas that have no vegetation as they walk the property. As you can say, shrub plantings to fill in all the voids and some locations of some evergreen and deciduous trees with the plant list.
Great. We have another commissioner, I think, who would really like the way this is sort of laid out, all, not perfectly organized. So I think it looks great. So yep, that's my only question. Thank you.
So that, make a motion to approve the order of conditions.
Do you want me to quickly show my conditions? I won't read them for the sake of time, but I'll just put them on the screen.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, they're easy to read, so you guys don't need, I don't think I need to read them word for word, but just planting work in buffer zones done by hand, no heavy machinery in the buffer zones without approval, no mulch is allowed except for around the plants, only undead mulch is allowed, invasive removal only allowed as needed to be done by hand, no herbicide use is allowed, and then inspections at pre-construction, pre-stormwater, pre-landscaping, and final inspection.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Besides herbicides,
Yeah, just in case they have to hand pull any garlic mustard or something in the buffer zone when they're doing the mitigation planting, I just said do it by hand, no herbicide use is allowed.
Right. So with that, I move to approve the order of conditions for NOI 2417 of 195 Sora Street with the conditions that are shown on screen and recorded in our minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Ray Romano,
Larry Romano, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Tom Bill, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. Looks like we need a variance here, right? For
Yeah, to remove the fence and do the mitigation plantings.
Yeah, okay. So there's a stormwater permit too, right?
Yeah.
So I move to issue a stormwater permit for 195 Soria Street, stormwater permit 2416 with our conditions as shown on the screen in our normal conditions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Larry Romano,
Larry Romano, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Tom Bill, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. And finally, we need a variance for work here. So I move to issue a variance for work within the 50 and 100 foot, 50 foot buffer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Romano,
Larry Romano, aye.
Bill, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. Public hearing for NOI 2417 and stormwater permit 2416 at 195 Soria Street is now closed.
Thank you all very much for your time and your diligence with all your hearings. I will log off now. Thank you very much. Look forward to getting the order and commencing construction.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sanjay, time check. How much time do you have?
I can hang in there a little longer, but I'm gonna have to go to bed. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay, so you're still okay for 9:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next is a resumption of the public hearing for NOI 2418 at 24 Little Harbor Road to remove invasive species, vegetation, and do landscaping improvements It's been continued from June 25th of 2024.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry, we're running short on time, so we do have to keep this really, really brief. I don't know who wants to go first, but if you guys can keep it to less than 5 minutes, I'm sorry, that would be great. We know you guys provided a lot of documents, so.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design. I think I'll jump right in. I'm here with Amy Wolfson from Amy Martin Landscape Design and Paul Marabito from Ross Engineering. I'm not sure, but Daniel and Elaine Bradley, the property owners, may be joining us.
Okay.
So I think I'm just going to jump right into the meat of our conversation. The last time we came before you to present a landscaping plan as well as a land management plan, which included the removal of invasive vegetation on the coastal bank and within the buffer zone to a coastal bank. With that, we requested a variance for use of herbicide, including glyphosate and triclopyr, for the management invasive vegetation, because we felt that due to the site conditions, the steepness of the bank, the amount of rock ledge and rock outcroppings and the thinness of the soil, we were concerned about using mechanical removal methods. We want to leave the root systems in place so that we're not disturbing the soils on the coastal bank and within the buffer zone, allow them to naturally biodegrade while we get native vegetation reestablished. I think some of the things that came up at the hearing, there were a couple of questions. One of them was related to the invasive trees that we're proposing to remove, mainly Norway maples. We submitted a tree count for the number of trees that we're removing. It's a total of 29 trees. 18 of those are 6-inch caliber or less. So within the 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6-inch caliber range. 7 of those trees are 10-inch caliber or less. So there are some 7-inch, 8-inch, 9-inch, and 1 10-inch caliber trees. And then the remaining 4 are larger trees, including 1 14-inch, 1 18-inch, a 12-inch, and 1 large 24-inch Norway maple. We are proposing to plant 19 trees back, including hop hornbeam, serviceberry, red cedar, red maple, tupelo, and white oak, to mitigate for that tree loss. In addition to that, we're planting 193 native shrubs, including viburnum, chokeberry, fragrant sumac, bearberry, lowbush blueberry, bayberry, sweet fern, as well as a number of herbaceous species, including little bluestem, butterfly milkweed, eastern columbine, wood fern, and wood aster. I think the other questions that came up are related to the use of the herbicide and concerns, the commission's concerns about using herbicide. I provided at the initial hearing and then resubmitted 3 fact sheets, one on glyphosate, one on triclopyr, and one on invasive species management, which included references. In addition to that, during the interim period, Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources just released their updated scientific review of glyphosate. With my follow-up letter, I pointed out a couple of interesting items as it's related to the use of these herbicides in invasive species management. The report really focuses on agricultural and non-agricultural use, mainly rights of ways and nursery and landscape industries, golf courses, etc. I think one of the interesting or most interesting pieces of this is that the largest percentage of herbicide used in the Northeast is applied by retail residential consumers. So it's a very low amount of herbicides that's used in invasive species management, as we're proposing to use it here today by licensed applicators who are certified and trained to use this. 35% or 860,000 pounds of glyphosate per year is applied by residential homeowners who are purchasing these products at local hardware stores. So what we're trying to point out here with that is that our use of these herbicides is very specified. It's being used by licensed trained professionals for a very specific targeted reason. Had the opportunity to watch the hearing from the trustees for the Turkey Hill project in July 11th. Watched that in full and really appreciated what an excellent job they did in presenting their project and how they're proposing to use the herbicides. And I, as a professional doing this for 15 years, agree with them. The other thing that we asked, or you had asked for, were some references. I did provide some references for other projects with other conservation commissions, including the Orleans Conservation Agent, Falmouth Conservation Agent, Harwich and Chatham Conservation Agents. And I know Charlotte has had a chance to reach out to at least a couple of them and get some feedback. I know that's a lot to ask. So with that, take a deep breath, answer any questions. If there's anything specific I can go over for you with the documents that I provided, I am happy to do that, but I know you're short on time, so I don't want to start reading these out loud to you. I'm sure you've had a chance to look them over yourselves. Thanks.
Thank you. Charlotte, you have some comments? Yeah,
just real quickly, this was of course a week, sorry, Tom.
Thank you for getting all of that information out to us, particularly the state draft report for herbicide use. That was useful.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely has a lot of information. Didn't specifically give information about coastal banks, but did have, you know, some information that it could potentially pose certain risks to certain types of species like bees. It was a little unclear with the soil data. I don't think they've really looked at it enough, but it does show that it could potentially have some, impacts to fungi and microorganisms in the soil. But since the treatment methods that Teresa and her team are providing are very specific, where it's cut and injection and applied wiping, it's no spraying. It's not like they're, using the backpacks that you use for the herbicides. So there shouldn't hopefully be, at least from what it looks like, there shouldn't be seepage into groundwater or the soils. I did speak to the Falmouth Conservation Agent as well. They are very accustomed to looking at restoration plans from, you guys and the rest of the agents. I'm sorry, we're on vacation in other towns, but in speaking to them, they did have some suggested conditions. Definitely not working, obviously, in high wind conditions. They said if you're doing work on the coastal bank, you definitely don't want to remove any of the soils. You really do want to look at herbicide treatment, because if you remove the soils, then you're going to put the coastal bank more at risk for erosion. And then they also said to just be mindful for restoration plans of the use of switchgrass, because that can quickly take over an area with any other restoration plantings that are proposed. So I think there's only 21 plugs of switchgrass, and I don't think it was a major majority of the seed mix that you guys have provided. I don't think your seed mix includes a majority of switchgrass. So I think maybe some lessons were learned out on the Cape. But yeah, in terms of the herbicide use, it does seem like at least the Falmouth agent, they're very comfortable with permitting these within very specific parameters, and definitely keeping in mind with low flow conditions, low wind conditions. And then some of the other BMPs would be not doing it during, nesting seasons, and doing it, keeping it outside of mid-April to early August, and doing it more in the later half of summer to fall, which is, I think, specified in all of the time points for year 1 to year 3 with the herbicide use specifically. And then they would be monitoring the site during periodic times of the year, and then irrigating at other times of the year. But really the herbicides would be limited to, like, I would say, mid to late August to early mid-fall. Doesn't seem like it's going to go past that date.
Yeah, that's actually the best time, the most effective time to apply herbicides, when the plant is translocating carbohydrates to the root system, not during the early season when it's putting all of its effort out into flowering and fruiting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, so I know this is another ask for the commission. I did draft, conditions that hopefully I think can, keep the project within the type parameters that have already been specified in the management plan, but it'll be up to you guys. And it does seem like that other commissions are used to seeing it, and they're used to working with Teresa and her team. But, keeping that in mind, I think this is new for the commission. So if you guys want me to share my conditions, I can. If you guys have any additional concerns, we can share them. I just know we're getting close to 9:30, so whatever you guys want to do.
So
regarding the trees, there was 7 trees 6 inches or larger, and I see that there's 11 trees proposed, and one of which is the Canadian serviceberry. Is that really a tree? Like,
The
Pump.
Amelanchier canadensis, yeah, it's an understory tree. You know, again, because we're dealing with such thin soils here, we're trying to, you know, we're planting trees that are going to be able to grow in and get acclimated to the site. Our concern about the Norway maples are that they spread significantly. So they spread by dropping seed, and they spread prolifically, and they outcompete native plant species. So we're trying to restore just a full native plant community on this site. The majority of these trees that we're proposing to remove are small trees.
Yeah.
I think we reviewed the plan at the last hearing, that all of the trees, all of the native trees are remaining on site. Most of those are at the toe of the bank. The Norway maples are further up, closer to the bank in the 50-foot buffer zone.
Typically for work within the 50, and then we would look for a 2-to-1 replacement for anything. I believe it's anything greater than 6. So I think this is a good assortment of plants, but just for in terms of trees and canopy and everything, a couple more would be great in my opinion.
Just to speak to that point, and as a supplemental planting plan to what Teresa is talking about, that we submitted another plan that also shows 7 additional serviceberry trees, 16 eastern red cedars, 3 tupelo trees. So there's a significant number of trees that are being added to the site. The trees that I just mentioned would be placed within the 50-foot buffer.
Oh, they would be placed within the 50-foot buffer?
Yeah, so what Teresa's talking about mostly is on the coastal bank. What I just mentioned would be on the 50-foot buffer. So we have a planting plan that sort of corresponds to everything outside of the coastal bank.
Yeah. Okay.
The new report describes weed mats. I assume that's not an option.
Weed mats as in like landscape fabric?
Yeah, as a method for weed remediation. I was just rereading the Massachusetts state report from the Glyphosate Commission, and they note that. Is that not an option here?
So almost like sheet mulching, so you're smothering or solar soil solarization. So in this case, I think that the species that we have here, we'd have to bring in a significant amount of weed mat to cover this entire area. And by this, I think you're meaning landscape fabric. And then on top of that, we'd have to add soil, mulch, etc., in order to shade these species out. They very quickly regenerate through that. I just don't think we've never used that kind of treatment for management of invasive species on a coastal bank. Our goal is to remove the invasive vegetation, stabilize the bank with seeding and erosion control blanket where necessary, and then planting woody vegetation back in. So in addition, on the coastal bank to those trees that we talked about, again, we're proposing 193 shrubs. So we're putting back a significant amount of woody vegetation. In order to make that sort of sheet mulching or soil solarization work, we wouldn't be able to plant back for a significant period of time. So this method allows us to manage 1 year, stabilize the bank, and then be replanting woody vegetation the following season.
Okay, yeah, I just encourage you to look at page 81. It says, they say it's a high degree of weed control and can be implemented without using herbicides and has some durable optionality. At least that's the words from their report.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now and happy to find that page. I mean, it's definitely an option on a site like this. Again, we would be covering this. So mechanical methods is what you're looking at for their different methodologies. They
Yeah.
review mowing, the advantages and disadvantages, flaming or steaming, advantages and disadvantages, tilling, and then physical methods, manual removal, mulching, I think is what you're talking about.
Yeah, just below mulching is weed mats.
Yeah, so they're typically, again, their disadvantages are that it requires form of pre-treatment of existing weeds, that you're transporting large quantities of soil mulch. It can be not only a labor challenge, but can also introduce other invasive or
I think that's the
noxious weeds.
mulching. Like if you go down a little further to weed mats.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's rated as unacceptable for ease of implementation and startup, ongoing costs, breaches that form in the mat compromise control efficiency. And so again, and you wouldn't be able to plant back into it because you wouldn't want to breach that weed mat. So you'd be leaving that weed mat in place for a number of years, and you wouldn't be able to plant back into it because you can't breach the weed mat. That's the concern with that.
Okay, I didn't read that duration. Is there evidence on how long it has to be in place that you could share?
I have not used it personally, but a high durable options, it says that the weed mat can last longer than 15 years. What's included in the MDR report?
I mean, that's one of the advantages, right? It says high degree weed control. If you want to, it could be a durable option over 15 years.
Right,
So
but you couldn't plant into it for that 15 years. So you can't plant back into the weed mat because you don't want to.
I guess I'm getting hung up on can. You could, I'm not reading as saying it has to be there for 15 years, unless you could explain that maybe in more detail. How weed mapping.
Well, in order to, so for instance, when we use erosion control blanket, we use 100% biodegradable erosion control blanket, which is another thing. This material is not biodegradable. You're putting it into the resource area, but we use, and it breaks down, it breaks up, falls into the water. We use 100% biodegradable erosion control mat after we do the initial invasive species management, and then we actually cut into the blanket and then plant the woody vegetation directly into the erosion control blanket. So in order to plant, you'd have to cut into the weed mat and then plant into that. And then everything that's underneath it would just bounce right back.
Weed mats made of plastic.
Exactly, yes.
Well, not according to this, they're plastic, cardboard, or other materials, right?
So yeah, and I would call cardboard as sheet mulching. And so you'd add, and we've used that in small areas. And you mainly would use that where maybe you have some areas of noxious weeds like mugwort that you might want to manage, where you're cutting it down, then you're putting on layers of cardboard, and then you're putting mulch on top of that and just letting the, and then basically you're just starving the plant of light that's underneath it. I think for a small area, sheet mulching is viable. I think for a large area like this, I just don't think it's a viable option.
Sorry, Teresa. Mr. Chair, it's been about 15 minutes. I know we're getting short on the rest of the night.
I'll be very, very brief if I may, Mr. Chair. So I really love this project, removing these invasives, non-native species, and what you plan to put back. I think it just sounds like it's going to be a vast improvement, and I'm obviously concerned with the use of the glyphosate and whatnot. I guess my question is, what effort and how do we know that some of the herbicide isn't going to sort of wind up in the water? Because I just have no idea, like even what drops of it do to fish, and to water wildlife. So if there's anything to be spoken about that, but otherwise, I love what's being presented here, and I think this project seems great to me. Go ahead.
So yeah, the herbicides that we use with a wetland approved surfactant. So the actual herbicides themselves, glyphosate and triclopyr, have no negative impact on aquatic areas. It is the surfactants that have the negative impact. So there's the glyphosate technical, and then there's a glyphosate mix that's mixed with surfactants. And that's what you get in your Roundup that you pull off the shelf in a hardware store. So we actually mix our own. We mix the glyphosate, we mix it with a surfactant that is approved, wetland approved, so it has no impact on aquatic life. So that's the herbicide that we're proposing to use here on this particular site. So we do not
Almost
want
sounds too good to be true, but I like it.
Well, I mean,
Oh, thanks.
it is, I mean, all I can say is it's EPA approved, for use in these areas, and it's really about the surfactant, not about the actual active ingredient, the glyphosate or the triclopyr.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Would you read the conditions that you proposed?
Yeah, I won't read them word for word, but I have set it up, not like the last project we heard, but similar to other restoration projects, and then added conditions about herbicides. So no vehicles, equipment stored in the 50, protection barriers around all the trees proposed to remain inspected. Contractors shall keep the site clean, no trash, debris. And then for the restoration plan, I just simply wrote all steps in the approved restoration plan and land management plan shall be followed with the following conditions. So just abiding by the plan that they've proposed with the following things about restoration work within the bank and 50 buffer shall be done by hand, which they said they were going to do. Use of mechanical equipment is not allowed within the coastal bank without further review from the commission prior to any use. And then here's the key one here. The herbicides within the coastal bank and 50-foot buffer are allowed with this order solely for the purposes of invasive plant removal with directly applied methods as specified in the land management plan, restoration plan. Herbicides for use under this order are glyphosate and triclopyr. No other herbicides shall be used for this project without further approval from the commission. So just clearly saying which stuff we're going to use. And then invasive stuff supervised by a licensed contractor, licenses submitted to me. All invasive removal done by hand outside of bird nesting season past early August of each year to minimize disturbance removal of any nesting habitat. No vegetation removal shall occur between mid-April and early August. Those timeframes are also shown on their plan that they're not going to do work with herbicides within those timeframes. No invasive work with herbicides done in rain or storm conditions shall be done in low wind conditions. So just make sure, obviously, we're not doing anything with high winds. Invasive material removed from the site shall not be stored on the site and then properly disposed of off-site. And then annual reporting by December 15th of each year presented during a scheduled public meeting by supervising professionals after the first year, and then as needed for subsequent years. So just, I think it's good for them to come to us after year one. We've done that for other restoration projects. And then required site inspections, pre-construction, pre-landscaping, restoration, and final. Restoration inspections will obviously be at each seasonal time point specified in their plans. I think this is a good condition, but it's up to you guys. If you want conservation markers installed along the coastal bank, restoration area shall be made appropriate material approved by the agent. And then this one is up to you guys. We did this for 205 Atlantic Ave, that the restored restoration area shall be a no disturbance, no build zone for current future property owners and shall be maintained for planting replacement, restoration maintenance, and path maintenance only as shown on the plans. No further development, further minimal invasive removal may be considered as part of ongoing maintenance activities and shall survive the issuance of a COC. So we did that, just so that, in 10 years, all this restoration work isn't undone. We want to make sure that the coastal bank is protected with, minor maintenance work and path access.
Good.
And then I don't know if you guys want the markers or not, but figured it was a good idea since we've done it for other projects.
Yeah, I think that's a good reminder to everybody that this is a conservation area, and
But Teresa, Amy,
can be proud of it.
Oh, was that Tom? Sorry.
Hopefully, the property owner will be proud to show their conservation markers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I just quickly, I think what 7 maybe a teeny bit restrictive, maybe just some language saying that, future property owners can come back to the commission for proposed paths to the waterway or something like that. I don't know. It's just like a blanket prohibition, seems.
Yeah, I did say path maintenance as shown on the plans, but do you want to say
existing plans and existing maintenance? Like, what if they wanted to have a different path?
Yeah.
And it wasn't as, it wasn't objectionable to the wildlife and to what's been done today. We're sort of like blanketly prohibiting that right now.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to make waves, but
Yeah.
refer to the chair, but
Does this sound okay, Valerio? Path maintenance or access?
I don't think we want to add
anything that suggests they, anything that they can or can do, you know? I think this looks good. Just
Okay. Let's just leave it. I'll defer to the chair and to the agent for sure.
Okay. I just added the word access to just imply, you know, that they can obviously maintain the path that they've proposed and then access, you know. I can take out as shown on the plans.
That would make me happy.
Okay,
But
does that?
if that doesn't offend anyone else.
Do you want me to take this part out? I mean, I think it says perpetual no build disturb. That's pretty clear. And then we could just say in path maintenance or access, if that sounds appropriate. Because then it allows for, you know, if they ever did need to install any additional access paths, they could do that. I just want to make sure that it's obviously left as a conservation zone.
Well,
I like that.
I think we're kind of opening the door to the landowner to do something without coming back to us. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's true. So
Yeah, I did want to have with permission of the commission or something, but yeah, I don't have to belabor it. It just, yeah.
I mean, we're sort of undermining the point of condition 7 by loosening it up here. And being specific about paths, I think.
No additional development. Development or alteration is allowed without further approval from the commission.
Right.
There we go. That works for me. Yep. I wasn't trying to cut us out of any for future decision making. That's perfect.
All right, how's that?
Maybe we can have one comment. You know, I think you opened the door by recommending us look at this draft phase 2 report from the state of Massachusetts. I'm not convinced that you've explored all the options that they've highlighted here. The report's fairly neutral, but I'm not convinced like that all the options have been considered here. Or even like limiting it to tricyclopyr versus glyphosate, which seems to have less toxicity for aquatic species.
So we choose the herbicide based on the plant that we're treating. So triclopyr, for instance, glyphosate is not effective on Asiatic bittersweet, so we use triclopyr for that particular species. We use triclopyr for multiflora rose. We use glyphosate for, there isn't on this site, but if there's Japanese knotweed or Phragmites reed or something like that. So we choose the specific herbicide that's effective for the specific plant that we're treating. We choose these particular herbicides because they have short half-lives. They don't leach from the soil. They don't leach from the root system once they've translocated to the root system with the cut stump method. Unlike some other herbicides, including imazapyr and other herbicides that I know are discussed in the MDR report. But that's why we choose these particular. They're effective. They're cost effective. They're effective to the plant. They have a short half-life. They don't leach unless they're being directly sprayed onto the soil. They will not leach through the soil into the groundwater. And then once they're in the soil, their adsorption rate, they bind very quickly with the soil so that they do not leach into the groundwater. And that's why we use these two particular herbicides.
Thanks, that's really helpful. Yeah, my point still stands. 3.3 section of the report that you noted to us has a number of other methods that I just wasn't convinced of the thoughtfulness of exploring those ones.
Yeah, I mean, fire, obviously not appropriate. Mechanical removal, we've discussed that and why we don't feel comfortable using mechanical removal. We don't want to cause any more disturbance or potential erosion on the coastal bank. Sheet mulching or weed matting, we just discussed for a site this large and of this size, it's not economical. It doesn't make sense. I don't know the other methods we could certainly break down and go through, but I feel confident. I've been doing this work for 15 years. I feel confident that we're going to end up with an excellent result. We've done literally hundreds of projects in coastal resource areas, restoration projects. And I'm excited to do this project. I think we're going to end up with a really good result here.
Definitely reject the weed matting that uses the fibrous plastic material that they use. I've used it here on my own property, and it persists in the soil. I laid it down 10 years ago, and I still find pieces of it. And so it's just it was a huge mistake to introduce all such a source of microplastic into my own backyard. And I'm really wish I thought it out more clearly before I did it. So the weed matting thing, at least with the stuff that's sold at Lowe's, is I would be against that.
Yeah, but I think 3.3 talks about a number of material choices that could be made, like in that report.
Yeah.
Would the applicant and the commission be open to putting this first on August 8th, just given a little more time to look at that report and look at those alternatives, and then have Teresa provide any other additional information that she hasn't already given us? Or do you guys think you can issue a decision tonight? It sounds like I think some of us want to see a little bit more information, but I don't know. What do you think, Mr. Chair?
Well, I think we should give the commissioners every opportunity to explore this. It is a new thing for us.
Yeah, would you guys be open to continuing to August 8th and going first on the agenda, just to give the commission more time to fully process everything that you've given us? Because, you know, we may have approved one project tonight, but it's a case-by-case basis, as our commission has mentioned. So I think they just need to review the information in more detail, but I don't know. I don't want to speak for everyone here. We are about to lose a quorum though, so I have to stress the time.
Yeah.
I just want to push back a little bit, because I feel like we're postponing something that we've discussed a lot. Like I understand the hesitancy of trying something new, but also I think that we have presented sufficient material with a good amount of time for everyone to read over the information, for us to feel like this is a good option for a great project.
I was actually surprised, like, to read this report, though. It wasn't an endorsement for your approach. That's what struck me. You know, if this is going to be your supporting material, like, why are these other methods, like, in detail explained how they're a better alternative from what this scientific review has published?
I would disagree that they're saying that they're a better alternative. And if we had more time, I would run through each one of those alternatives with you and explain the disadvantages and why they won't work on this particular area. I know we're short on time. I understand we have a 15-minute time limit. I did my best to present all of the material in the short period of time. I mean, fire is not appropriate for use on this site. Weed matting is not appropriate for use on this site. We discussed why we feel mechanical removal is not appropriate. We do not have biological options for this. If it were purple loosestrife, we could try and loose the beetle on it, but we don't have, we do not have biological options for Asiatic bittersweet, Norway maple, etc. So those are the options that are outlined in the report, and they're just not feasible or practicable for this. Mowing is not practicable. We cannot continuously mow the coastal bank. Not practicable. Flaming or steaming, not practicable here, and actually, frankly, is not very effective at all. Physical methods, manual removal, that's basically what we're proposing to do, but we don't want to pull this root system out of the soil. We want to leave these root systems in place, allow them to naturally biodegrade. Obviously incredibly labor intensive, but what we're proposing to do is labor intensive. Mulching, again, we would have to still pre-treat the existing weeds, does not make sense. Biological methods aren't available to us. So as I pointed out in my materials, we're environmentalists. If we can do something without using herbicide, we do it without using herbicide. We're requesting a variance because we don't feel that it's practicable or feasible to do this project. But we do strongly feel that removing the invasive vegetation and restoring a native plant community is going to better protect the resource area and water quality on this site. So that's why we're making this proposal.
I'd like to ask the commissioners, who needs more time here? Or do you think you've learned enough and you're unlikely to change your mind over going forward?
The report Sanjay's talking about, I honestly I looked at the documents that were provided, the report from DEP. I can't speak to it. I haven't had time to look through the whole thing. So, whereas Sanjay's concerns are primarily related to the, the state report here, and since we do typically take those into high consideration, I would like a chance to kind of fully digest that. I realize it was out in June, but I haven't looked at it yet.
You're cutting off.
I can't help it. I don't know what's wrong with my microphone. This is a difficult decision for all of us. And I think that if anybody has any doubts and needs more time, even if one of us does, and it sounds like Chris does, I could certainly use a little bit more time. I think we should delay. It's risky for the applicant to push for a vote because they very well may lose. And so I would advise caution and patience.
In the interest of time, if the applicant would agree to a continuance to be first on August 8th, I think that gives the commission more than enough time to look at everything. I've already drafted the conditions, so it also gives the commission time to look through my conditions and provide any edits to me in advance. I know I read them really quickly tonight, as I did for the other projects. So if everyone's amendable to that, we can put it first on August 8th and immediately talk about everyone's stance and go to conditions if necessary. Does that sound appropriate?
Sure.
Right. So you agree to continuance, is that right?
Yes.
Going to public hearing for NOI 2418 at 24 Little Harbor Road is now continued until August 8th, 2024.
Thank you for your understanding. If we weren't putting pesticide down at the water's edge, I think this would have been a lot easier decision, but we really need to sort of think about this thoroughly. And as the chair said, if any commissioner wants under this sort of like unusual circumstance to make sure to really mull it over thoroughly, I think we should have the opportunity to do that. It's not because your presentation wasn't excellent and your proposal it wouldn't really be an asset to what's happening there. It's just because of the unusual nature of putting herbicide down at the water's edge that I think that we should have an opportunity to fully think it through if anybody would like to do so. So thank you, and I don't think this doesn't reflect badly on you at all.
No, I understand. Like I said, this is something that I've been doing professionally for 15 years. I want you to take the time you need to make sure that you understand and feel comfortable with the project. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that, I think you can guess the room.
If I do get any other resources from the agents I've contacted, I'll certainly let you guys know, but those conditions were drafted in mind with what I read through and some of the conversations that I've had. So if that's any consolation, that they weren't just created from scratch, but I will definitely keep updating them as I receive any more information. But yeah, so thank you guys. We appreciate your patience and hope you have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Guys. Thank you. Sanji, are you able to hold on for like 5 minutes? I think there's really this next show cause hearing is more just a follow-up, but we may have to continue the other two.
Okay.
Okay. So Jeff and Brad in the audience for the 81 Fair Oaks and 280 Beechwood. I'm sorry, we'll put you guys first, second, third on the next agenda. But Dylan, I'll promote you just to quickly go over 0 North Main Street because I think this is more just a follow-up. But yeah, Brad and Jeff and Steve, I think in the audience, thank you. Sorry we couldn't get to your project tonight. Hey Dylan, how's it going? Thank you for waiting. So quickly following up on this, the commission had asked for a plan of where the buffer zones were to kind of understand the activity that's been going on. So they did provide that. I'll just pull it up real quick. It looks like the activity was occurring outside of the buffer zones. So the wetlands are flagged on, looks like, it's kind of hard to tell what north is, but the wetlands were flagged 2 years ago. It's on the borderline of the property line here, I think to the northeast. And then the 1,500-foot buffer zones are in these double green lines. So a lot of the ongoing activity, they have an existing road here. They kind of keep stuff here and here. I think recently they were doing some test pits out there. I forget what it was for. I think Dylan can offer that context, but this is where the wetland buffer zones are, existing tree lines and everything else. So this is the context that the commission was looking for from the last show cause hearing. Oh, Valera, you're muted.
Yeah, I wasn't speaking. I
Oh,
was
sorry. It looked
yawning.
like your mouth was moving.
I think I was yawning. Sorry.
That's okay. But Tom, I think you were one of the people that requested it. Do you have anything else to add for this?
No, we don't.
Okay. Sanji, Chris? No? Okay. And Dylan, can you remind us what the test pits are for? I know Brendan said there were some test pits that were being done recently.
Those were for a septic system for the perk test.
Okay, so you're doing perk stuff and you're looking for a septic location?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, just as you know, any future activity within these buffer zones will require a permit. So now that you have your wetland buffer zone lines and your 1,500-foot buffer, you know, any work in there would definitely need to go through Concom. And then for any work outside, the 5,000 square feet thing is tough, but if any future clearing did happen, it could potentially trigger a stormwater permit. So we just don't want to see that happening without further review. But I think I don't have anything else to add. So Tom, just let me know what you'd like to do.
Do we have like a area that has that was disturbed outside the area? Like how close are we to triggering this?
It looks like it's pretty much in here, like where you see the limit of the trees. Like this is where you see a lot of the aerial activity that everyone had been reporting.
No notion of area though for what is that? Like what's the rough?
That I don't know. I mean it.
I think those are ledge crops.
Right here?
Yeah, I think. And I got it on a small screen here, but these lines you see here, I think these are ledge croppings.
Mm-hmm. Right here?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, those are ledge. Yeah.
That's why you'll see all our test pits, they follow the ledge.
Oh, okay. So your ledge is here and you're
Yeah.
doing test pits for septic in here.
Yes, on the lower side of the ledge.
There's no sewer utilities on the property right now, are there?
No.
So that's why, okay.
So I don't see what further we need to do here, so I would think we should lift the show cause.
Yeah, I mean, if there's nothing, it doesn't seem like there was any violation in the buffer zones, but Chris, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, I was
Oh, sorry, you have your hand raised.
Oh, sorry. No, I don't. Put my hand down. I don't even know how I did that. Just disregard.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's really just, I think this may have been where the calls were coming from. There was previous excavation activity on this side of the parcel. People said some tree stuff was happening, but it may have been what was already there. I definitely didn't see anything or hear anything on this side of the property. So I think that's really why the commission just wanted to ensure there's no violation of the Wetlands Protection Act. But in the future, obviously, if there was any land alteration or clearing that was greater than a 5,000 square foot area, then it would need permitting. So I think, Dylan, now that you know that, I think just moving forward, I think we're all hopefully on the same page now, and the commission has this plan for reference. And obviously you have this for reference to not do any work in the 100-foot buffer without permission.
Absolutely.
Okay. I make a motion that we lift the show cause parcel ID C4 14070.
Second,
Okay, Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Sanjay Fernando. Review. Sanjay
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Romano.
Lee Romano, aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0-0.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate you hanging on.
Absolutely.
night.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Sanjay. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
And Jeff and everyone else in the audience, we will continue the show cause hearing for 81 Fair Oaks and 280 Beechwood Street enforcement order to the next hearing at August 8th. We'll try to get you guys early on next time. And
Thank
then
you.
I'll
Good
continue
night.
everything else. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
All right. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, all.